Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA 2019. In 2018, my partner and I co-hosted this call. Todd Bookspan came up with this idea. It was awesome. You know, we had over 10 top mortgage professionals. It was the most viewed event we did all year with over 1,000 live guests. It got the most views as a video, so it was over 6,000 views. I did write up a transcript and a LinkedIn post on that. So there will be a link down below to last year's event, just because those scripts are priceless. They're just as valuable today as they were then. But let's face it, it is a new year. It's 2019. And a lot of people have been talking about this shift that's happening. And I would kick off today's call saying a shift happened. You know, when you look at 2018 and the amount of change that took place, Zillow got in the mortgage business, Redfin got in the mortgage business, Keller Williams got in the mortgage business. You know, the rhetoric and talk about Amazon got in the mortgage business. It shifted. You know, it is a digital shift that took place. And now we're not even into the, into the year, and Ellie Mae is sold. You know, there's a new CEO at Zillow and big press last week. I just wrote an article with Kristen Messerly. It's on my Facebook page. Check it out, talking about the shift that happened. So it's a new day. It's a new interview. I've got my partner, Todd Bookspan. We've got 11 guests. I'm stoked to say that we have 5 men, 6 women. So we've got more women than men as leaders and top producers. They all have one thing in common. They're among the top 1% in the United States. Many of them are among the top 200. And so with that said, Todd, why don't you share some opening thoughts and let's get into it.
You know, Dave, I'm so excited to be here, and I really appreciate everyone who's taken the time out of their day to be here live and watch it, or those of you who are watching it later on the recording. I think, Dave, you did a great job of setting everything up, and all I would really add is if you think about it going forward, right, what separates you from the other person they're talking to on the phone is what you say and how you say it. And I just love the fact that we've got some of the best scripted loan officers in the country who are here today to share with you their best script. So I think without further ado, Dave, let's just get started.
All right, let's get after it. So we have not my first interview, but the first time on SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA, we have Shannon O'Hare coming to you live out of Bozeman, Montana. What is up, Shannon?
Thanks, Dave. Happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, you crushed it. You were a new success story last year. I interviewed you twice. I'll put a link down below to some of my interviews with Shannon. Shannon, how many loans did you do last year?
Ended up with 132 loans, down a little bit from the prior 2 years, but my volume didn't shift down that much. So I was happy, and in a year of change. So it was good.
Good. Well, congrats on your success. And I love the fact that we have loan officers that are in top 20 cities. And then we have a loan officer in a really cool mountain town in Montana. Let's talk about the modern borrower conversation that you have with the clients that you serve in Bozeman, Montana.
You bet. So I recently listened to a call that was talking about increasing productivity and humaneness or humanity. And I thought it was interesting to align that with everything that Mortgage Coach has to offer, and that is really allowing us to compete with the online lenders and everything else. Because with the productivity increase, we've got templates. We're going to be exposed to these amazing scripts today. We've got our systems in place, but we also have the humanity side where we're empathetic, we're listening, we're trusted advisors versus just sitting in a call center doling out a loan that doesn't make the right sense for the client. So that's really the approach that I'm taking, is getting to know my client, being an active listener, and utilizing Mortgage Coach to do that. And so the script that I have is just, I pulled an example that is from Friday, and I had a CPA send me a referral and jumped on the phone with this guy. He's from out of the country. He lives here, and he wants to buy a couple investment properties a year over the next 5 years. So what an awesome opportunity for me to utilize the software and really jump in there and use a script. And so with the outbound TCA, it's going to be a little bit tailored to the client's needs. I try to make the subject line of that email really specific and catchy for the client. So like this example, I just put Mark makes money. And then in the body of the email, I make the first paragraph pretty specific to the client's situation. The next paragraph is going to be more just a generic template. And then I always create a hyperlink. So I don't just use the link that Mortgage Coach creates. I want to make it tailored to that client. And I for this one, I put interested in imminent insightful investment, and that's his hyperlink to go check out what his opportunities are.
So Shannon, real quick, because I always like to give scripts. It's great. And for everybody who's listening, we'll get a sample of the email that you send. And all the loan officers have a borrower experience, and we'll try to get as many email templates as possible. But what is that opening conversation? How do you differentiate yourself? So when you're talking to that family, I'm not just another app taker. What do you say? What is that script to open the conversation and have that really personal conversation?
You know, in this case, I didn't help him with his purchase of his home here. He's bought in the last 2 years. And so I really wanted to dig into that first and get to know what went well, what went wrong. Did he like his realtor? Does he want a different realtor recommendation? Dig in and ask the right questions and have it be more of an interview of him versus me spewing out rates and fees and down payment options on his next investment purchase. And so that's really where I go into question and interview mode.
Got it. So you're asking questions, you're interviewing him. What is, like, most loan officers, are just gonna, quote a rate. What is your scripting with the borrower? If there is a phrase that you use most often with clients or a way that you position yourself, an elevator pitch, maybe there's a 30-second or 1 minute way that you describe yourself. What would that sound like?
What I typically say is, so with the institution, I work for Stockman Bank in Bozeman, Montana. And what I say is that we are one of the top producers in the Valley month in and month out. The only way that I can do that is being competitive on rate and fee. But past that, I have to deliver on what I'm doing. And in this case, I did incorporate the fact that I had a professional in the community refer me, and I'm going to take full advantage of that. And so not only will we be competitive, but I know I've got to deliver on what I say I'm going to, and that I have been in the industry since 2002. I've seen the rise and fall. I've been through a lot. And so I feel like I can create opportunity for clients and align them with the other right referral partners that they need to be successful.
Got it. Todd, any questions you have for Shannon so far, or ways in which you want to take this conversation?
Well, I would say two things. One of the things that Shannon said early on is she talked about active listening, and I think that's really critical. It's such a challenge oftentimes when we're thinking about scripting and what to say next. And so always make sure you listen there. And then the other word I just love that you use is that we're competitive on pricing, right? I always know there's always someone better than you every day on pricing, or anyone out there. And so you're never going to be able to say I've got the lowest rate, but I think that clients overall just want a competitive price. And so I just think that was a great script, and I appreciate you adding that word in there.
You bet.
So one more thing I want to pull out before we wrap this up is, I know when I asked you, hey, what scripts do you want to cover? You said, hey, I think I've got a great borrower conversation. And you said, I have a self-script. What does that mean? What's your self-script?
All right. So I went off the rails a little bit on Dave here. So I love the SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA. I've listened to last year's call probably 3 or 4 times, but I think the only way that you can be successful in delivering these scripts is if your head is in the right space to make that call, whether it's to a referral partner, an annual review, or a new client. And so I've been in the industry a long time. One of my first bosses had given me the advice that you need to be able to get back in the game if something goes wrong, and it will go wrong, right? We'll lose a deal. Someone will be upset with us. Something goes wrong. So through the course of the years, I've had different methods. Maybe it's listening to the St. Elmo's Fire theme song. I don't know. Maybe it's eating some chocolate. But so lately it turned into this acronym, and the acronym is FIND, and it's forget it, next deal, or something like that. And so really what it is how do you lost a deal and it was super frustrating and it's got you down, but you've got a client waiting for you on the phone. You have to get your mind right, and you have to get back in the right mindset very quickly, and you have to shake off whatever happened. And then I think you also have to pick that back up later and see if there was any opportunity, because I think that with any adverse situation, there's always an edge and there's always an opportunity. And so really regrouping and making sure that you've got that quick fix to get back on track, but also don't affix blame to anyone, but seek out the opportunity. So I had a deal that the people were under contract on a large property. It was a great loan. We were through approval and the inspection blew it up. And I reached back out to the agent a couple weeks later and I said, hey, how's everything going? He said, well, they found another property, but it's in a price point that they can just pay cash, which is like dropping your keys in the garbage disposal. We hate hearing that, right? But so I called the realtor and I was like, hey, let me know when they're going to closing. I'd love to attend the closing. So yesterday, actually, I went to the closing and the wife of the couple was hired on I'll say a larger firm for this area in the HR department. And so I just wanted to go introduce myself, create a relationship there so I can go back to her in a month or two, ask how the house is and say, hey, is there any opportunity for me to present to you about new hires moving to the area I'd love to be a trusted advisor to them. So I think that's number two. I could have been just mad and walked away from that, but I had to realign myself to keep going about my day the day that happened. But then again, pick it back up and say, is there any opportunity? If not, there might not be, but if there is, tackle it.
Love it. So we got maybe 2 more minutes. So important note for everybody, have a great script, great questions at the point of sale. Have some great scripts for your own head, especially the scripts when we lose deals that we didn't want to. One last, I'm trying to nail this in a minute, because I know you do annual reviews with your clients.
Yep.
And I know that is a best practice for the best loan officers. What is your script for getting a family into an annual review conversation with you?
Yep. So I tried a few different methods. I only started doing annual reviews a few months ago. And what I found works for me is I have my team print off 3 names a day with a template, and I'll get this over to Dave, but I can't type and actively listen at the same time. And so I had to have them paper copy. I'm handwriting notes on them. And then I circle back with my team and they do the data entry and follow-up work. We definitely incorporate on these past clients. We didn't have a TCA. And so I have them go back in and create the current TCA and make sure that we're prepped for that call. But really the question out of the gate is just, hey, I'm checking in. It's been a while. How are you? What's going on in your life? Talk to me about your family. How's the house? Are you guys still in the house? Usually we try to pull the tax bill because I haven't talked to some of these clients in a while. And so it's a new process and we're just embracing it. You have to start somewhere. But the biggest thing is asking how they're doing, asking what's new, how was their house, and tell me anything in the next 1 to 3 years that should be on my radar. Kids are graduating. I got divorced. We're having a baby. I'm changing jobs, whatever it is. And just, again, being able to really actively listen in those conversations to dig out the opportunity and then follow up. And that's the biggest piece is, you get done with these calls and then there's action steps. And so you've got to stay on top of all of it.
Love it. So Shannon, you were awesome. Folks, if you love what Shannon has to share, I've got interviews that I've done with her, some of the best interviews of the year down below. I want to remind folks, this is on Facebook Live. You can share this. So within our group, you can go to share Facebook Live and you can share this with other people. So Todd, anything you want to wrap up on that and then bring in the next speaker?
Well, a couple of things. Number one is we got a question from someone asking what a TCA is. That is a mortgage coach total cost analysis, and you're going to hear a lot more about those as we go through this call. And certainly you can just go to mortgagecoach.com to learn more. Dave, is that the best place to send them?
Absolutely. Mortgage Coach. There's a buy now button. You can get a demo and I'll do a commercial a little bit.
Perfect. I would just highlight a couple other great things. I love Shannon's attitude, right? Forget it, next deal. You're going to lose some deals, right? You gotta bounce back. She's brand new into annual mortgage reviews. We're going to hear more about those from our next speaker. And it's really critical if you're not doing mortgage reviews that you jump in now. We had plenty of success stories of people literally creating $10 million worth of business last year by starting to do mortgage reviews. So I just love the fact that you're jumping in, Shannon. I think that's a great example for everyone. If you haven't done it, then, it's okay. You just have to start somewhere, and now's a great time. And just know you will have some people who've already gotten other financing without you. That's okay. Find it next deal. Forget it next deal. Fine. So I think that's awesome. Any other comments, Dave, before we bring on our next guest?
No, we're ahead of schedule. Let's bring in our next guest. Rocket.
So,
Thanks,
I'm super.
See ya.
Thanks, Shannon. We'll see you soon. I'm super excited to bring in our next guest, Lori Richardson. I've known Lori for over a decade. I've had the honor of coaching Lori. She's a $50 million producer. She's done over 1,300 total cost analysis. I don't think there's anyone better. When I think of mortgage reviews, I always think of Lori. So come on, Lori, let's welcome on to SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA and let's wow us with your first script.
Well, thank you so much. Well, I wanted to add one thing to yours, Shannon. I was reading Andy Andrews this morning, said, challenges are a gift and an opportunity to learn. Problems are the common thread running through the lives of great men and women. And essentially I read that and said, you know, they bring on these challenges. So I love your find analogy, and I'm going to be prepared for the challenges. So the annual mortgage review, I know we've talked about it here a ton. For me, it's all about setting it up front as we start having conversations with clients at the very beginning. And we make 4 promises to our clients when we start. And 2 of those happen to be giving them mortgage planning insight and guidance as we go through the process and integrating that loan into the rest of their financial plan. And the other one is being available as a resource year after year as their trusted advisor to really make sure that their loan is always integrated into the rest of their financial plan, because we know a lot of stuff changes. So for me, the annual mortgage review isn't as much as getting the meeting as it is prepping them from the very beginning up front about what we're going to talk about later in our relationship. So so that's what that script for me looks like at the very beginning. When we first start talking to people, we try to set ourselves apart at the very beginning, and we've been working on just a different way to say it so that maybe it really resonates with them. And for us, that's telling people right at the very beginning. Most people have a vision of what they want their financial future to look like. They're just not exactly sure how to get there. So we take the time to understand our client's big why, right? What is their vision? Where are they going? What's important to them? First, we listen and then we guide. And that helps us kind of go into that annual mortgage review script. So we run through, we know that inaction is almost always caused by a lack of understanding in the process. And so we spend time up front really just kind of understanding what their financial goals are and how we can help them integrate that loan into what they're trying to accomplish. So I just tell them right at the very beginning, and I think I got this from Tim Brahim on one of your videos, Dave, years ago, that if I'm doing my job correctly, my job really begins when we close our first loan. And from there, it's my job to help you manage one of the biggest debts in your life. And we're going to continue to monitor the market as things continue to evolve and see if there's an opportunity to rewrite your loan and save you some money over time. So if we see a dip in interest rates, we're going to be in touch. But even if we don't, we're going to be in touch in a year because we know a lot of things have changed. So we kind of set them up for that right from the very beginning. Our very first conversation, we are already talking about the annual mortgage review, which will happen a year later.
Well, and I love it because you set people right up from the start, and you also let your clients know to ignore all that mail they get too, right? Is that still part of your script?
Yes, absolutely. After closing, you're going to see a lot of bottom feeder lenders. Sometimes I say that, sometimes I don't. That buy lists, and they're going to want to jump in and help you, but really remember that they don't really have your financial goals or your goals and dreams or your best interest at heart, because they don't really know what they are, right? They don't know what your goals are. They don't know what you're trying to accomplish. And we're going to, again, help you integrate that loan into the rest of your financial plan today. Our advice next year might be really different because your life might look really different next year. For me, I got married last year. I sent my daughter to college. My life is radically different this year than it was last year. And so there are things that change as it relates to that. And we just want to know that we're going to come back and circle the wagons. Oftentimes I'll tell people, hey, this is not one and done. We're going to come back and revisit this with you. If you think you're going to be in the property 10 more years, you're going to hear from me and I'm going to ask you, okay, do you think 9 more years, 8 more years, 7 more years? So it kind of just prepares them to have that conversation with us. We use a mortgage planning questionnaire at the very beginning to kind of get a sense of what their financial goals are, in addition to the loan, right? We know that's a big part of what we do, but there's a lot of stuff going on in their financial world. And so asking those questions helps us really pinpoint what it is they're really trying to accomplish right now. And then making those recommendations to create clarity and peace of mind and really make solid financial decisions today, but also into the future.
Hey, I want to jump in real quick because I love, your annual review scripting, but I also caught that you're using this at the point of sale. So first time customer, you are describing the fact that, you're not the typical loan officer. So how do you position your annual review, and what does that sound like for a first customer? Not annual review, but how do you position that at the point of sale?
Well, when we make our 4 promises, like I said, promises 2 and 4 are really, really dialed into this is not, A, it's not our first rodeo, and B, this is not going to be a one and done deal for us. We really want to create a relationship with you to help you build your net worth over time and help you get closer to what matters most to you. Our tagline has always been, our priorities are simple, they're yours. So I want to, again, first we listen, then we guide. But at the very beginning, we're telling them, because I think more and more people these days, we're at risk of becoming more commoditized, right? We talk about this all the time. And for those people who think it's all about rate, we're trying to head that off at the pass right at the very beginning to say, hey, we're going to talk about way more than just rates and fees. We're going to talk about the rest of your financial goals. We're going to integrate that into the rest of your financial plan. I'm going to talk to your other advisors. So I'm going to talk to your CPA, your financial planner, your estate planning attorney to make sure that what we're recommending is integrated with the rest of your financial plan. To do that, we have to be part of that team, and we really want to try to help you not only integrate your loan into your financial plan right now, but you can count on us to help manage this mortgage going forward to see how we can save you money in the future. And I think that's the difference. Quicken's not going to do that for them. eLoan is not going to do that for them. They're not going to know those financial goals. And so it helps us to be able to say, hey, you might be able to get an 8th lower in rate right now, and it saves you $16 a month. But if I can call you, if we do see the next recession that we head into, and we've got rate triggers set up so that we can call you and say, hey, Dave, we can save you $158 a month. And as long as you think you're going to be there over the lifetime or, over the next 10 years, that's going to save you $12,000. Is $16 a month really worth it? Or, are we in it for the long run?
I think that's huge. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, is that the online lender is not creating the same relationship that you're creating. We're getting a lot of questions on people asking about your mortgage planning questionnaire. Lori has actually shared that with our community before. If you go over to the files tab on the left inside the Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind, you can find a copy of it there. And then we will be sharing a lot of other resources with all of you after this, because we've got people asking about your 4 questions about basically everything you just said, because it was brilliant. It was truly brilliant.
2 things, Todd. We have 2 questionnaires. One is the mortgage planning questionnaire at the beginning, and then we have an annual mortgage review questionnaire that kind of follows up and asks similar questions a year later. So happy to share both of those. The only other thing that I was going to share today that I just thought of is a tool from you that we got at Building Champions. It was the Ford tool that you use, Creating Connections. This is fantastic, and I have started actually using this tool when I am doing my annual mortgage review. And everybody knows Ford is family, occupation, recreation, and dreams, right? Begin to ask those questions of those folks. Their Building Champions created a great form that has a place where you can actually log all that information. But on page 2 of that form, am I okay to share this, Todd?
Well, yes, you are. We'll make sure we get it up in there for everyone to have their own copy.
Because some of the questions just help you. They've got example questions for each one of those areas, and they help us go so deep so quickly. And I'm starting to actually log this in Salesforce as what did I learn about them, so that the next time I talk to them or the next annual mortgage review I do, I've got all of that stuff right in front of me, and I'm updating their total cost analysis based on where we closed and where the market is today. But it's fantastic. So that's been a huge add-on that I just implemented in the last 2 weeks since I saw you.
Well, I love it. And I should definitely give credit to Coach Bill Hart and Coach Michael Regan, who poured a lot of energy into that tool that you're talking about.
It is great.
All right, guys. So Lori, you're awesome. Everybody, we are going to be putting a supplement together, a PDF that includes email templates, resources like this, anything that you guys want, comment down below, and we will be following up with the speakers and leaders, getting you guys a value pack. Think of it as a SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA playbook. Within a couple days, or within a week of this call. So stay tuned on that, and we will see if we get permission from Building Champions to include that. So Lori, thank you. And if anyone wants to go deeper with Lori, I have interviewed her multiple times, links down below, and also do a search in our group. You can either search in our YouTube channel by Lori Richardson, or you can do a search in our Facebook group based off of these items. So as our next guest, we have a regular leader in our community, Michelle Town. Michelle co-hosts and is a leader in our Friday mastermind group. So every Friday, 9 o'clock, Michelle helps facilitate that. Michelle is over $100 million a year producer, coming to you live out of Southern California. What is up, Michelle Town?
Hi, everybody. I'm going to say happy Tuesday since I always usually start happy Friday. Happy Tuesday. Happy to be here and happy to share, some great things. Lori, oh my gosh, you should see my notebook. I wrote tons of notes already. I mean, I love this kind of stuff. I get so jazzed and so energized because, if you listen and you take 3 things from what you learned today, you're going to change your business model. It's fantastic.
Well, you kill it, Michelle. Real quick, what was your volume last year, 2018?
We closed a little over 110 million and we helped 198 families. We were just fell shy of 2. We were trying to push the last 2 in at the end of the year, but we realized we were doing that more for ego than what was best for the client. So we always put the client first. So we did 198 with 110 million and super happy, had a really successful year.
Yeah, well, congratulations on that. So let's talk about sales strategy and sales scripting for your borrower conversation, because I know you also get some direct-to-consumer leads, and you have realtor referrals. Realtor referrals are your main thing, but you do have direct-to-consumer leads. So you really have to think about your words, your scripting to optimize your conversion rate. So share some strategy and scripting around your borrower conversion.
Absolutely. I will tell you, I'm very much like Lori. We have on our Jingo or Salesforce, we have a little part when we're doing our intake calls. We have a check mark to make sure that we do our mortgage coach, our total cost analysis, or our rent to own analysis, depending on, when you do that initial interview with a client and you're asking them the questions. And, Lori's mortgage planning questionnaire is fantastic because the first thing when I have a consumer that calls me, and they haven't been referred by anybody, the very first question out of their mouth is, what's your rate? And I deflect that because I just immediately answer them and say, I don't know, do you have a few minutes for me to answer a couple questions? Because I can't give you a rate based on just hearing your voice. I need a little bit of help from you. And then we'll go in and we'll start doing the mortgage questionnaire with them, which is, tell me, is this your first home? Do you have plans? How old are your children? Are you looking for different school districts? Going in a little bit deeper because we start showing them our value right off the bat. And one of the things, and I think I shared this last year too, is I got very personal with the clients right off the bat. I used to be very, hey, this is business. You're not allowed in my life. And I realized that this is an emotional thing and I need to have an emotional connection with them. So, I'll talk about, oh, I don't have children, or gosh, I've got, 5 dogs barking in the background. I'm so sorry. Or the chickens were, roosting in the background, so I make it fun and I get them off that, oh, she wants something from me. I get to the point where I'm going to give them something that's going to be of value. I use the total cost analysis. I want to share something just in case I forget because I got so excited. So I always do a video or a voiceover, not always video depending on what time of night it is, but I also always send the PDF version of the total cost analysis. And I was getting people only going to the PDF version and I'm like getting grumpy about it. I'm like, God, I just did this video. My hair looks great. And I didn't have to retake it 20 times. So what I do now is I hyperlink the entire email. So when they open up my email and touch it, it immediately goes to my video. It's pretty fantastic. And the client will call me back and go, God, I watched your video and I'm seeing more people watch the video now than just looking at that PDF. Because I was going to pull the PDF off, but some people may not have video capabilities and I thought I would lose some value there. But I do the same thing that Lori does. So I'm going to repeat a lot of it. I ask them, I tell them right off the bat, listen, we're not your typical mortgage lender. We are going to be working with you. Our goal is to make you our client for life, and we're going to hopefully work with your families. But in order for me to do that, I need to ask you a couple of questions, and it's going to be a little bit personal. I need to know what your financial goals are. How long do you think you're going to be in this house? I talk about disposable income a lot because a lot of people talk about, I want that 3.75 rate. I'll say, okay, great, I'm going to give you that option. So let's take that off the table. I get it off the table right away. But let's talk about what that 3.75 rate is. If I can take some more money and shift it to pay down a debt, a car payment of $800 per month, and now your overall total monthly obligations are X, would that put you in a better position? And it also puts me in a bit better position later to possibly refinance you if things change. So I get them off that rate and I get them back on looking at disposable income, because that really is what's important. We don't care what your interest rate is, because if I give you an interest rate of 5% or 3.5% and your overall payments are still $2,500 a month, you're happy, right? And that's what my goal is. So I really steer my total cost analysis at that, talking about looking at your disposable income, because by that time I've already asked them the questions of what their car payments are. Usually I have their credit reports and their income, and I'll say, hey, we can put you in a financial position better to start putting away, even though your rate's gonna be a little higher, we're gonna actually show you that you're gonna be able to save $250 a month and put it in the bank.
So I want to make sure everybody connects the dot on a few things. I have one more script I want to get from you. So noticed how she's getting personal at the front end, asking questions she doesn't need to ask, but she is getting personal with folks. You know, loved your scripting on how you kind of deflected off of rate onto that. And then the whole conversation, you say, hey, I'm not your typical lender. I want to be your client for life. And then it wasn't the words that you said, it was the way that you delivered service. You know, you asked great questions, you delivered this great mortgage experience. Remember, everybody will give you a package. You'll be able to see her email, see exactly what she's doing and how she's doing, so that you're driving this interactive digital experience where great conversation, video, numbers. So one last question, and then we've got to bring in our next guest. How do you take this great conversation, and what is a quick script on how you position this with a real estate agent so that they see you as a conversion partner?
Fantastic. When I'm with my realtors, and actually even when it's a client coming to me with their own realtor, I actually will pick up the phone and call them. And when that mortgage coach, the total cost analysis goes out, I actually always put them on the email, and they get notified. You know, where you can click and it says notify partner when the client opens it. I let them know that as well. But I go through and I'll say, hey, if you don't mind, if you'll take, because my mortgage coach videos are no longer than 2 minutes ever. 2 minutes or more or less. And I'll say, hey, can you take 2 minutes and look at this? Make sure I've met the client's goals and that we're on the same page, because I can do a correction and I get them engaged. And when I'm talking on my video, the first thing I do is say, thank you so much. And I want to thank you for working with Cindy Edmondson. And I want you to let her know that I've shared this video with her too, so that we're all working as a team.
Love it. Michelle, you rock. Appreciate all your leadership every Friday, 9 o'clock Pacific. Thank you for that. Everybody, you're watching this at a lot of you are watching this in our Facebook group. Every Friday, 9 o'clock, myself, Todd, Michelle, Jen Duplessis, and then we have special guests from time to time. Todd, I hand it off to you.
You know, thank you, Michelle. It's always great to hang out with you. I thought there was two key things I'll point out. Like Michelle is herself, right? Look, I'm here with my chickens and my dogs. Let's have some fun. And then I also love that you said, okay, great. I'm going to give you that option when the person asks for a rate. So just think about those types of little sentences of building rapport. Our next guest is another almost decade friend of mine, someone that I've had the pleasure to coach, Mr. John Downs. John's out of the DC area, almost a $100 million producer. He's done almost 500 TCAs. And I think you're going to find that John is super technical with what he does and the conversations that he has. So welcome, John. How are you today?
Awesome. Doing well, Todd. Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it. Hey, real quick, I had an idea for the community, and I have struggled on annual mortgage reviews kind of like forever. And then it just sort of clicked sitting back, listening to Lori talk about it. And then I thought about a meeting that I had with a financial advisor once, and they sat down with me, and I wrote this down in my Win by Noon Mortgage Coach Edition planner. And what I said, the guy basically said, okay, here's what we're going to do, John. For years 1 through 3, this is what we do. And then years 4 through 7, this is what we typically do. Here's why. And then what I think, based on what you just told me, that I'm going to tweak this future plan to include fill in the blank. So I don't know if that gives anyone out there just some brain power to think about how to do annual mortgage reviews differently. What if it was part of a plan we sold day one, but it was a plan and it was like a real purpose? So anyway, maybe something to circle back on later.
Love it. That is really awesome. So, all right. So jump in. What you picked a couple of scripts that you thought you wanted to share. Why don't you just start?
Yeah. So sure. So 2 things, I guess. I mean, it's funny. My brother is in the business. He's in Atlanta and he's worked with me now for 3 years. And he'll always hear me say the word script. And he's like, I'm not a scripted guy. And then finally, just like a month ago, he's like, I get it. So you're not talking about a word for word robotic way of doing business. You're talking about high level concepts that then get tweaked based on who you're talking to, right? So very conversational. So I think that's the one big takeaway that I'd like people to know. I think for a lot of us, when we say scripting, we've said the same thing like 1,000 times, and probably almost like 80% of the time, there's a different variation of what we say, but the underlying message is probably the same. You know, one thing that I was going to bring up is a lot of agents tell me that they're like, John, for some reason, when my people talk to you, they buy sooner and they write stronger offers. That's kind of the general theme I've wound up getting over the last 15 years or so. And so I really did some soul searching on that. Like, what is the reason? Why is it? And I've clearly noticed it, that when they buy, they usually say 4 months out and next weekend they're writing a contract. So what is it and why? I think the biggest thing is I do make loan origination a somewhat brainless activity. And I even say that right out of the gate. I'm like, the thing about mortgage lending is like my 8 and 10-year-old can kind of do it because it's like stupid math. Like it's super easy. It's like your income, your debts, your credit score, and there's all this technology that makes it so easy. So I choose not to spend a tremendous amount of time like with data input. On this call, I want to learn all about you, find out what you're doing, find out what your goals are, so I know what to present to you. And then, I definitely want to talk to you about the current state of the market because I think that is really important. And the one thing that I say that seems to put me in pole position of the kind of like the future of what they buy is because I say, the average good real estate agent, like someone knocking it out of the park, they might sell about 5 houses a month. And that's like big. Like the average realtor might be lucky to do like 2. So if I'm doing 20 and then I'm managing other people and I'm seeing another 30 on top of that, when you're looking at 50 contracts a month in a peer group, you really kind of understand what's going on in the marketplace. So by the time we get off this call and I learn about you, I really want to dig into your contract strategy so that you know, or that we know, what is your strongest offer, so that when you fall in love with the perfect house, like to the point where you're going to hate yourself if you lose, like we need to know what that offer should be structured like so that you win. When I look at my pre-approval script, I've got it kind of here up on my screen. It's 4 pages long. And again, I'm not overly scripted. I'm just going to give you some high-level talking points in case it helps. But step 1 is always introduction. Hey, how did you meet so-and-so real estate agent? I love working with them. And then you play the silent game, let them talk. They'll tell you a lot of times if you deal with the same people long enough, you'll find common connections. Or you can even say, hey, are you by chance friends with, and name other client that agent dealt with, right? To try to build a connection and cement the relationship. And then the other part is I say, if we're starting out the process, just give me a high level overview of whatever's in your mind right now. So rather than me take you down a specific path, I just want to hear like perfect world scenario. What do you do? What do you buy? What is that payment? How much cash do you put down? Just like unload all that stuff on me and I'll fill in the blanks. And then I'll say, as an example, I have some people that say, I want to put 50 grand down. I want my payment more than 2,000 a month. I'm looking in this zip code and I want the price to be no more than 400,000. And then I have other people that say, I have no clue. Like, that's why I'm talking to you, right? So I'm kind of framing the conversation of tell me where you are right now before I begin, instead of me coming out of the gate being the John Downs show, right? I want it to be your show. as I scroll through, I do take 1003s conversationally, not in an LOS. So in my CRM, I'm typing high level points, right? I'm not putting socials, addresses. If you look at they're like longhand notes, right? I'll ask income questions 3 different ways. So tell me roughly how much you make, right? And then I'll ask it 2 more different variations to make sure they're really giving me the right answer. So super conversational 1003 building. And then I give them their limiting factors, or I'll kind of go to their thresholds. And I'm going to get to the most important spot here in a second. But to sum up loan approval, I just say, okay, based on everything what you told me there, based on your income, you'd qualify for up to this much. And it's usually a much bigger number than they want, right? Income times ratio minus debt that they told me. Think about their loan, down payment and come up with a number really quick. And then by cash, you could go up to here, right? And it's just how much cash they want to use. In my market, I divide it by 0.08 for a 5% down loan because closing is 3%. If they're putting 10% down, by 0.13, right? 20% down by 0.23 to get a sale price. And basically say, well, based on everything you're saying, it kind of makes sense, right? And if it doesn't, we dive into the specific. So that is kind of my pre-approval strategy. It's scripted. It ends with 15 other scripts of possible talking points based on that conversation, right? And again, scripts are just high-level points. The last thing is I think I use the pre-approval conversation in every conversation, circling back to that market. Like in theory, like I really probably should be a real estate agent if you listen to my conversations. I think we have a big, powerful stage to educate them on the market. And my script for this changes all the time. My script right now is, right now the market is on fire in DC. And it kind of makes sense, but let me tell you why. So end of last year, the market was crazy slow. It started with rates peaking in September. People all of a sudden that they wanted to buy, they pulled back. They were like, whoa, rates just went up. The housing reports looked bad. The media piled on it. The stock market started crashing. The election was there. There was hate everywhere, right? Negativity and just everything was bad. Well, then fast forward past the election, both parties thought they won, right? The Republicans got the Senate, the Democrats took the House. So they felt good. Interest rates stabilized. I mean, as we sit today, the stock market's only like 4% off the high, like to think where we were in December and where we are right now. So you actually have a tremendous number of positives where people are waking up realizing, it's not that bad. Rates are low. We were going to buy in the fall. Let's buy now, right? But then you also have the buyers of the normal spring buying now, creating this amazingly competitive, hard, tough market to win. So now let's talk about why that's so important, right? And that would trail into the contract strategy, which is another script that if I have time, I can get into.
We got, can you do it in 1 minute, John?
What's that?
Can you do it in 1 minute or no?
Yeah, so real quick, I think contract strategy is all about what the seller sees, right? Seller wants obviously highest price. They also want safety. So imagine a seller sitting down, stacking up 10 contracts, highest to lowest. They'll pull out the top 3, and then they'll say, who can back out? Like, who can't back out the soonest, right? Am I saying that right? So like, if you need 10 days to get your financing done and some other contract needs 15, you win, right? If all is equal, you won that one. Should you waive a contingency? What is the risk of doing that, right? Should we use speed to close? What does that look like? Can you pull it off based on the product you're choosing? So contract strategy for me is an education of what the seller's looking for, and then how can we beat everybody else through our efficiencies and through their capabilities of maybe tightening or waiving contingencies.
Dude, that was awesome. So, you know what? I always appreciate, John, you taking the time. Of course, you teed it up, and I took my Win by Noon commercial spot to give it to you. So I'm going to real quick just tell everybody one thing. I'm super grateful that Win by Noon gets to participate with Mortgage Coach in this call. And so ultimately what I did was just go here. Here's all you need to know. If you go here to Win by Noon /scripts, and you can see what the deal is. We're doing for $12.99. You'll get a copy of the Win by Noon Launch Edition, 30-day money-back guarantee, and then it's just an ongoing subscription there to really get them all quarterly. So That is my one big commercial for the day. Just go to winbynoon.com/scripts. There's a bunch of webinars coming up on how to use it. So if you've tried it before, this new launch edition now actually has the instructions built into it. So like if you look at this, you can actually see now it actually walks you through how to get started. So if you tried it before and failed, this is a good opportunity. We'll have some webinars this week, next week to get your realtor started on it. There's a real estate agent version of it. So that is the beginning and end of my Win by Noon commercial. Take it away, Dave.
All right. So I want to make sure everybody's super clear on Win by Noon. So if you believe being your most productive self is of value, which I personally think in the market that we're in, not only do we need to have better scripts and better conversations, we need to be our best. We need to use our time efficiently and effectively. So when you think of Win by Noon, think of it as your personal productivity platform so that, what the best of the best are doing, how they're spending their day. Win by noon. I love it because just that concept of winning by noon is valuable. But if you want to optimize your personal productivity, go to that link. Also connect with the Win by Noon Facebook group. It's a great Facebook group of some of the most successful, most productive mortgage professionals and realtors in America. So check it out. So Dan Keller, the man, the myth, the legend, and one of my Who friends. What's up, Dan? Make sure you unmute yourself, buddy.
What's up, buddy? Good to be on the call with you guys, man. This is great.
So by the way, I don't know if you've noticed it, but you and I both clap our hands. Someone was like, when you were doing a call, it's like we're both hand clappers.
Dude, you're the big dog, man. Everything I do, I try to follow you. So I probably got that from you.
I don't know, man. I got it from Tony Robbins.
Well, hey, that's a good lineage right there.
Yeah, no doubt. So folks, Dan Keller does over $80 million a year in production, coming to you live out of Seattle. He's almost done 2,000 total cost analysis. So you're chasing Jeremy. Jeremy's done over 3,000, Dan. So you've got to get your game on.
Okay.
But I know you have some scripts you want to share with everybody. I'll let you share which script you want to share first, but share some scripts, brother.
Yeah, I want to give a real quick intro, Dave, because I think this is really, really important. And I think I've heard a couple of other people on the call already talking about this. Listen, I'm not a huge fan of the word scripting. I am, but in general, as I talk to loan officers and realtors, it can kind of get diluted and played out. The idea around scripting, you guys, I equate everything to a game. I came from the college and professional sports arena before I got into mortgage. And so what scripting and dialogue does is it gets you to the game. But what happens when you get to the game, we have weather conditions we have to deal with, umpires, field conditions, lighting, crowd, other players that you weren't studying as you were preparing for the game. And so what scripting does is it allows you to increase your ability to win that game. Essentially what scripting does, I've heard Jeremy talk about this before, where it just increases your batting average. And so I wanted to start off with kind of and frame my call today with the idea that scripting is going to help you win more games. It's going to increase your batting average. But in addition to that, no script is going to work. Nobody has the magic script or dialogue, because if they did, we'd all use it and we'd all be multi-millionaires and all top 100 loan officers in the US. And so what scripting is going to do, what I'm going to share with you, one, it's going to help you increase your conversion, your batting average, but also you have to understand that your preparation for that game, my preparation for this mortgage planning meeting or the phone call, there's so much that goes into that. And you have to understand that the dialogue, the scripting isn't the end all. It's the preparation for that big game. So I think what you wanted me to talk about and what I wanted to talk about today is the buyer conversion, the borrower conversion. You said the industry's under attack. We've got online lenders. Everyone owns a mortgage company nowadays. Everyone's fighting for a deal. I mean, recently, Dave, I have to use this example. I had a client go in to get their earnest money check. They're coaching at Chase Bank, Bank of America, the big banks. They're coaching their tellers around keywords. Someone was going in to get earnest money. Oh, are you buying a home? Yes, we're buying a home. Well, have you talked to our preferred mortgage specialist? Hold on, let me grab him real quick. And they gave him some crazy program, some crazy rate. They brought it back to me and I said, you don't qualify for that. It's a totally different program, has income guidelines, etc. But that's happening, you guys. And so making sure that we are educating our clients is so big right now. So I'm going to start with this. I'm going to give you some dialogue, but I also want to frame from my website to my social media to the intro call, everything around everything that I'm doing right now with realtors and borrowers is a part of the game plan to convert. So the dialogue that I'm really using right now is when I get referred a borrower. I want to kind of explain, I want to share some commentary around that. The first thing that I do is I triangle for trust. So when a borrower calls me or I get a name and a number to call a new borrower, the first thing that I do is I triangle for trust. Hey, Sarah asked me to connect with you, Sarah over at Keller Williams. I'm curious, how do you know Sarah? Okay, and I wait for their answer, and then I ask one more question to go deeper to kind of build that trust. The other thing that I do in that is, as a part of that process, is I give honor. I give honor to that agent. And so what I'm trying to do is securing the reason why Sarah recommended that borrower to me. So then I ask them, hey, I'm curious, what did Sarah say about us? Well, she said you were quick to respond. She said this, she said that. I repeat that, and then I go into this. One of the reasons why Sarah asked you and I to connect, or asked me to connect with you, is this. You're looking to move up. You're looking to buy your first home. And one of the things that we do is we have a system in place to really help navigate you through that process. It begins with education. The other thing that I do is I just finished reading a book from John Maxwell called Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. If you're watching this interview, I encourage you as a loan rep, as a sales professional, get better at asking better questions. Get better at asking great questions, and then use these guys. Somewhere along the lines, I heard of this ratio. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Leverage the ratios, okay? So I ask better questions. I ask every single person in today's market right now, and this is a big question. This is part of my dialogue. Why do you want to buy a house? And then I ask why 2 or 3 more times. So why do you want to buy a house today? I met with a client last night, and he said the house that he has is too small. I said, okay, what do you mean? Bedrooms, yard, square footage? At the end of the day, I found out that he wants to sell his house right now, buy a new house, because he's got 2 kids that are beginning elementary school, and the school district he's in is not the best one. So I went from pre-approving a client, someone wanting to buy a bigger house, to now the big why. The big why is a better school district so he can take better care of his kids. And so then I focused my meeting around that. And yeah, we talked about interest rates and everything. We talked about total cost analysis. But now the big why that I can always circle back to is buying a home in Bothell versus Everett. The school district's better there, et cetera. So the last thing that I do is, and it's a part of the close in regards to this dialogue, is and this is that first phone call, it lasts less than 2 or 3 minutes, is I let them know that it's tougher than ever to buy a home. You've got the media that will say that it's easy and you can do it with an app. We certainly can do that. But listen, there are regulations that were put in place over the last 8 to 10 years, and they're all still in place here in 2019. The economy's recovered, the housing market's recovered, but these regulations are still here. So I'm going to take a super complicated process. I'm going to break it down into 2 simple steps. I've created a platform, a page, a mortgage concierge page for you. I'm going to email it to you. I've broken it down into 2 simple steps. You're going to complete step 1, which is my client intake form. Step 2 is my concierge page. And then I'm going to follow up with you. So I'm going to stop right here, Dave, but going back to preparing for the game, that concierge page is my close, you guys. There's so much value there. That, with gathering the information up front, the right scripting, and then the total cost analysis that I put together for them before they actually apply, I'm giving them everything up front, and it helps. My conversion rates have literally, over the last 2 years, I've seen an increase in that by not being so reserved.
Love it. So guys, write down this playbook. Dan is talking to the family about hopes and dreams. So it's not about rates and fees and programs. He is providing, call it macro educational content, both online, social, his Facebook, conversation. And then he's delivering personally branded advice. That's the total cost analysis. So think of that. You know, it's this experience. But if you're focused on rates and fees, that is, you know, you're going to get beat. You're going to get beat by a big bank. You're going to get beat by a local credit union that's buying the rates. You're going to get beat by online lender. You have to be selling. Hopefully the takeaway everybody's getting is you've got to, you know, You gotta just connect with people on a personal level and then deliver a great experience. So I've seen a few people make comments about how they're viewing this and they're seeing everybody at the same time. I want everybody to know that's a personal preference thing. In the upper right-hand corner of Zoom, you can click speaker view or gallery view. And if it's gallery view, you're gonna see us all at the same time. If it's speaker view, you're gonna see us like this. So Dan, I think you already said you would do this, but you're gonna provide a sample of your email, a sample of a total cost analysis with a video, and what else can we put in this SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA playbook that we're gonna provide to everybody within a few days?
Yeah, once you get to the rate conversation, you guys, I highly encourage you. I mean, and I know you guys spend a lot of time, and I love the Mortgage Coach total cost analysis, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this thing right here, the Rate Watch app, I pulled this thing out. I wish you guys had a ticker, Dave, of how many times a loan officer uses this. I use this multiple times a day with clients. I literally open it up just like this when we start talking about interest rates and say, I get it, interest rates are important right now. And I have a talk track around interest rates where I learned this from I think Jeremy Forcier about a year ago, where the markets are all pretty much evenly priced. There's some outliers, but you got to be careful. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And so what I say is, here's the difference maker in the markets. I have access to this app. This app notifies me when the market's going to reprice. This app has saved my clients over the last 8 to 10 years, hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest. So how great would it be if you get your offer accepted on a home? Part of my commitment to you is that I'm going to have a rate lock strategy call the day your offer gets accepted. And I do this with every single one of my clients. I pull out this app. I tell you about the trend. I talk about how the trend is your friend. One thing, understanding that. I talk about the trend. I talk about today's trading and then what's to happen in the next week or two that could impact rates. Now, that's not common. That's not common at other mortgage banks and credit unions. And so how great would it be where you get your purchase and sell accepted and I say, hey, we're experiencing a rally right now. We're not going to lock your rate. We're going to wait 2 or 3 days. And then I go and I give you updated pricing in 2 or 3 days, and it's 0.25% better.
Love it, Dan. Dude, you were awesome. We also have a script. I'm going to put a link down below to a Facebook article I did around that scripting. Yep. So if you want to know how to turn, you're a market expert into a competitive advantage, check out a link down below. Todd.
You know what? Dan just crushed it, and there's just so many things I could say, but I want to bring up our next speaker, Katie Pastor, who is awesome. She's out of Northern California. She's done north of $40 million last year, over 130 loans, and she's in the 250 plus total cost analysis club. And of course, one of my favorite Win by Noon users. Dave recently interviewed her. It's a great interview. I'll make sure that we get the link posted down below. Welcome, Katie. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. Thanks again for having me. And I'm just really impressed by all the speakers that we've heard so far. And I'm glad I'm coming in when I'm coming in because I can kind of play off of what we've heard from these amazing people.
That is awesome. So I know you've got a couple of directions you want to head. So why don't you just jump in and get going?
Yeah, so the first thing I want to address is how do I follow up with my clients and what does that scripting look like in those conversations who were in the process of mostly just pre-underwriting them. So we've had the initial conversation with them, we've pre-qualified them, and now they're out shopping. So the biggest thing for me and how I work with my clients and my team works with my clients is every single client at that initial meeting, we're just building rapport and building trust with those people. And as Michelle Town and Lori, and also even Dan Keller just mentioned, those questions that I'm asking up front are really just building the relationship. And I incorporate those answers into my follow-up conversations that I'm having with clients. So I'm asking about their kids, I'm asking about, whatever it is personally about them that I found out, I'm asking those questions again, just to help build that rapport and that trust. In my follow-up conversations, usually because again, we're with every client, we encourage them to get pre-underwritten for the peace of mind that it gives them during the shopping experience. And then also so that they can write a stronger offer. So my follow-up conversations are happening when they're out of underwriting, and we celebrate that. So there's, a process of just reaching out and just saying, hey, congratulations. The hardest part of buying a home is out of the way now. You can have peace of mind. So when you do find that perfect home, you have your loan approval conditional upon that property appraising. So that conversation, I think, eases their mind and they get a little more excited about the home buying experience. So that's one thing that I like to bring up is where they're at in the underwriting process. And again, usually we pre-underwrite within the first week of that initial conversation with the client. So I'm able to give them that information. In addition to some of the questions that I'm asking, are they still looking in the price range that we initially identified? Sometimes, and most of the time, I'll pre-qualify people based off of a monthly payment that they're going to be comfortable with, rather than their max. So I'm checking in with them to see if I should be adding some additional purchase prices, if they want some payment scenarios. And of course, I do that with the TCA. So those are just some of the questions that I'm asking. How's the shopping experience going for you? How is it going out on weekends, shopping for homes? Because that's way more fun than shopping for a new pair of shoes. So again, I just make it personal.
I love that. So when you're explaining the pre-underwriting piece, do people understand what that means, or how detailed do you get on that?
Yeah, I set that expectation in the initial conversation that I have with the client. When we're talking about the pre-approval process, I'm a big believer in getting them pre-underwritten because every agent wants that, right? So I sell that, if you want to say it that way, but I set the expectation that for them, it's going to make the process so much smoother for them. And especially I work with a lot of first-time home buyers. So I always tell people, the first-time home buyers, that the financial piece of the home buying experience is most of the time the most stressful. So the way we can make it less stressful and the process more enjoyable for you is to get you pre-underwritten. And then I explain what pre-underwritten means. So that conversation is being had in the very beginning. So when I'm following up with them while they're shopping, they know what pre-underwriting is. They know what the underwriters looked at, so they're familiar with that process.
And then how are you overcoming the objection when they say, well, I talked to XYZ bank and they didn't ask me for all that documentation that you're asking me for?
Yeah, so I don't, knock on wood, I don't get that pushback too often. And if I did, I would just, again, tell them what it's going to do for them, right? It's going to give them peace of mind, knowing that they're going to have their financing in place. Also, it allows them to write a stronger offer. So when they do find that home, they can write a 21-day close or a 20-day close. They could even write it without a loan contingency if they were comfortable doing it that way. So I just spin it for more of, this is how you're going to get your offer accepted in this competitive market. But more importantly for you, it's just going to make this process enjoyable. And I think for most people, they think of buying a home as daunting, overwhelming, stressful. So my biggest thing is making it an experience, right? A good experience that this is fun, this is exciting, because it is a really big deal and it can be exciting. So how do we do that? And again, it's just that being pre-underwritten.
And then you're talking with your realtors about that. Are they scripting that as well? And are they using it as part of their presentation, since you said you get people qualified for what they want upfront versus max value?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So I got a lead over the weekend who was working with another lender and actually another realtor, and they've been shopping for the last couple months. And the reason why I got that is because the realtor set that expectation that we would pre-underwrite them. And again, they're first-time home buyers, and they just wanted that peace of mind, knowing that, they could qualify. And also, they've been frustrated, writing offers, not getting accepted. So when I said you can write a shorter close of escrow, they were all about that. So the realtors are definitely supportive of being pre-underwritten, and especially too when they've got a listing and that buyer comes pre-underwritten, they love that because they know they've gone through the process.
And then are you calling the listing agent, and do you have a script for that when you're calling them about your client?
Yeah, I do. So I actually, I have my realtor partners copy me on every offer that goes out. So that way I can see, what does the offer look like? It attached to it, they always include the pre-approval letter, and then they always usually write a story about the client. And in that email, as soon as that offer goes out, I'm responding immediately. And I'm just putting a little bit about the clients personally and why they like that house. And most importantly, we're pre-underwritten. This is why I'm confident we can close in 21 days or less. You know, I'm giving them most of that all the information really that they need in that email. And then on occasion, I'll follow up with a call. If I don't get a response from that agent within that same day, I'll pick up the phone and just confirm that they got that email.
Katie, you are killing it.
Hey, thanks, Dave.
I did an amazing interview with you a few weeks ago. It's been watched over 800 times.
Oh boy.
And anybody
Hopefully that wasn't the one where I wasn't wearing makeup and I was a mess.
No, that one's been watched over 1,000 times. But in all seriousness, guys, check it out. It was the modern pre-approval experience, and the way that Katie is connecting, you know, as a human being at a personal level. And then she's using her Simple Nexus app. She's using Mortgage Coach. You know, just the high touch, high tech. It's incredible. Thank you so much, Katie.
Thanks, Dave. One more thing that I want to add because you brought that up. So as I'm following up with clients, I'm also asking them, how's that app working out for you? And it is the Simple Nexus app that we use. And the reason why I'm asking that is I want that positive feedback because I get it every time. And it just feels really good to hear it every time, knowing that they've got the tools in their hand, right, on their mobile device that they need to really have all the information. So
Love that, Katie.
Ask how that's working out for them.
Love it. Yep. All right. Well, it's time for Mr. Jeremy Forcier coming live to you out of Northern California. Jeremy, for the past 5 years, has done over 100 million. And the interviews that I've done with Jeremy have been some of the most viewed interviews in Mortgage Coach, in the Mortgage Coach platform. What's up, Mr. J Force?
What's up, Savage?
Good to have you, brother.
Yeah.
So I think we've covered a lot of scripts on the borrower conversation. And in order to get borrower conversations, we need to have realtors that refer us business. And in order to have realtors that refer us business, we got to get a meeting with them. So let's do 2 scripts. Let's do one on new realtor. How do we get a meeting? And then let's do another one where it's like, you know, it's a realtor that you haven't kept in touch with. And if we have time to do more than that, we'll do more than that. So
awesome. So
how do you want to play it?
So I want to audible. It'll take 30 seconds. Kate, awesome job, by the way. So far, everything's been super sick. So here's something that we will do. Todd brought this up. Just in case you guys, you know, someone's pre-approved with someone else where they didn't get any docs in. And the dialogue is really simple. I have it typed up. I can send it to you, Dave. It's if you were the borrower, Dave, and then I'll go to realtors. I apologize, but she got me fired up on her process. So Dave, if you were the borrower and you're like, yeah, I didn't need to get any of that stuff with lender A or whatever, it simply goes like this. Hey, Dave, have you ever heard of any friends, family members, or just in the industry that have bought a house and had a bad experience?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Cool. Tell me about it. What happened?
Yeah. Brother-in-law, you know, went with big bank. They missed all their promises and they lost their home.
Yeah, see, I hate that. You see, here's the reality is that people that don't collect documents up front and actually do their job, they're what I call gamblers. I believe in guarantees. And most of these other banks and loan officers, they're just too lazy to do the work. And their strategy is I'm going to cross my fingers and hope it works out. Well, last time I checked, you don't want to gamble with your home purchase or a refinance. I want to guarantee that you're going to get exactly what you want with the best terms and that your loan will actually close. So I understand you have a lot of options and you can either go with someone that wants to gamble or you can come with me and I will guarantee it'll be a smooth process with a positive outcome. Which one do you prefer?
Love that script, brother.
Okay.
As always, you crushed it.
So I got that typed up. I'll send it to you guys. I love that one. It's my favorite when someone says something like that. So gambles or guarantees. Okay, that's the name of the script. All right. So realtor, new realtor first.
Yeah, let's do a new realtor first. How are we gonna get a meeting and what are we gonna say?
Cool. So context is always important, you guys. So a lot of the new realtors that I target, just because I'm doing a lot of purchases, would be listing agents. Okay. So first one would be the context of a listing agent that you don't work with. All right. So number one is I would reach out to them to always introduce myself. All right, here's what it sounds like. Hey, Dave, it's Jeremy Forcier from Cross Country Mortgage. How are you?
I'm good, Jeremy.
Good. Do you know who I am?
I've heard your name, and I think I've seen some of your stuff on social.
Awesome, man. Well, I was calling because I am the loan officer on 123 Cash Flow Street that just went into contract. And I wanted to go over a couple of items with you to make sure I can take care of you and the seller during the process.
Okay.
Cool. So number one is that I believe in great communication. How do you prefer to receive your communication updates on a weekly basis?
I prefer text.
Okay, cool. So text, great, no problem. We will probably call, email, and text, but I will absolutely make sure that you have a text out, okay, to you with an update every week. Number two is with your seller. When are they looking to close escrow? I see on here that we have March 7th as the close of escrow date.
That is, they absolutely have to close on that date.
Okay, cool. And does your seller, are they going to occupy the property after the close of escrow, or are they moving out and moving into another property?
Yeah, that's why it needs to close. We got moving vans showing up.
Excellent. Are they purchasing another home?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's non-contingent and it's good to go.
Okay, awesome, man. Is the title company the same as the title company that's handling our escrow? And the reason I ask is that I want to make sure that you can connect me with the other title company if they're wiring funds, so that there are no delays in your seller's process.
So Jeremy, how often are they just continuing to just be really cool and play the game here? Like, when are they going to start? Like,
they're always going to be really cool. This is in contract.
Got it. So you're focusing on listing agents in contract, and you're just delivering service and value that you're then going to transition into a meeting.
Service, value, and then it ends like this. Great, I have all the information. Here are three things that we always promise. Number one is over-the-top communication. So you're going to be hearing from myself and my team during the process, weekly, no matter what. But if you need anything else in between them, please let me know. The second thing that I promise is an on-time close 100% of the time, outside of the fact that if you're negotiating terms at the time that we order the closing disclosure, of course, that's going to have to, impact the time frame. But we guarantee an on-time close 100% of the time outside of you guys negotiating terms. The third thing that we always promise is that we're going to make sure that your seller has all their funds exactly where it needs to be within the right time. And all I ask in return, if we meet those three things and you're excited about the process and it was a positive experience, is if I could have 15 minutes of your time after the close of escrow for a cup of coffee.
Love it. So that's a good script, great strategy. Guys, we have done a couple interviews with Jeremy recently on Realtor Scripts. So, I mean, we've unpacked like a full hour of Realtor Scripts. Listen to my interview with Jeremy. I think it was 2 Tuesdays ago. Put a link down below. Also, Dan Keller did a whole Realtor Script conversation with you 2 weeks ago. So we've got a lot of scripts. Jeremy, if there was one more Realtor Script that we close this out with, what would it be that you've got that's gold?
So new Realtor Script again. I'm just going to call you. Ring, ring, ring.
Ring, ring.
Hey, is this Dave?
This is Dave.
Dave, it's Jeremy Forcier, Cross Country Mortgage. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm busy though.
Oh, dude, that's why I'm calling you, man. I love working with busy people. I was hoping to get on your calendar for 15 minutes so I can show you how to save some time, close some more escrows, and make some more money this year. What do you think?
I liked all that, but I'm just really busy right now, Jeremy.
What are you busy doing?
Just closing deals, man. I got a listing appointment tomorrow. I'm
Oh,
getting ready for another one today.
That's awesome, man. Well, very cool. Well, listen, I would love the opportunity to meet with you. I heard that you do great business. You have a great reputation. I only want to work with the best of the best. So I was hoping we could get together for 15 minutes next week. What day works best for you?
How does it usually go? I mean, I'm thinking.
You're going to blow me off, man. Dave's going to say this. I'll play Dave. Dave's going to go, oh, I really appreciate that, but I'm good, man. I have a lender that I've been working with for 38 years, and I'm super loyal to that person. I'm totally good to go. My response would be, hey, I respect that. So I don't really want to meet with you so that you can refer me. So I'm sorry if I didn't do a good job of explaining it. I just know you're going to see a lot of my pre-approval letters in the market. And I think that you should know exactly how our process works. That way, you know that your seller can be 100% confident that every single one of our loans will close, and I will never waste your time and or efforts.
Love that, brother. Well, let's do this because it's time for the Mortgage Coach commercial. So I am going to make sure everybody knows what Mortgage Coach is. Also want to remind everybody on today's call, if you have not listened to the Mortgage Coach script where Jeremy's 5 questions for every realtor meeting, listen to that. It's a must listen. But guys, here's what Mortgage Coach is. Mortgage Coach is a borrower conversion tool. What Mortgage Coach is not is a fee worksheet. I mean, our whole message, and Jeremy, feel free to add color, is don't just say, hey, I close loans on time and I have competitive rates and deliver a fee worksheet. What Mortgage Coach is, it's a dynamic advice-based experience. So your script at the point of sale is something more along the lines of, my advice helps you build wealth and prosperity with real estate by making smarter mortgage decisions and then helping you manage that over time. So whether it's a family that's just a pure online experience, phone, and you're delivering them the options, or whether they're coming into your office and you're meeting with them face-to-face, Mortgage Coach is just this ultimate advice-based experience where it's got your personal brand. And you're seeing a lot more loan officers now, not just position their loans as rates and fees, but they're showing strategies. Jeremy, anything you would add to that before we bring in our next guest?
I'd say the only thing that I would add to it is that it really helps you guys with all of your customers to find the cross-section of people's choices and circumstances. And really all our industry ever does is offers people choices, but they don't look at any of their life circumstances and talk about cost versus price and how it fits into the structure of their life. This does it super duper simply. I use it every single time. It's not a quoting mechanism, but I do use it for all my quotes. And where the real tangible, like stickiness is of it, yes, it looks pretty. Yes, most people aren't doing it. Yes, you can look like an expert at it, but using the video integration and where people can watch it on their phone is gigantic. It allows you to counter objections before they come up because you already know what they're going to be. It allows you to set it up so they're going to ask you the right questions after they've viewed the video and looked at the charts. And it really positions you as an essential partner in the transaction with them versus a vendor. So that's why I use it.
Love it. So folks, it's only $90 a month. You can go to our website, mortgagecoach.com, and there's a buy now button. Anybody that signs up today, SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA, I will personally be involved in some training that helps you fast track your success with Mortgage Coach. So if you've been on the fence, sign up today. Todd, back to you.
Dude, I just love that. And, some of you heard my story before. Literally the first day I got in the mortgage business back in 2001, I'd never even taken a loan app or met a borrower. I hadn't even been in the office yet. As a loan officer, I ended up buying Mortgage Coach. And, when I originated, it was the #1 tool that I had. And so I love hearing that. And I did just post it in there because Jeremy's about to crest over 3,000 TCA. So when he says he uses it, he absolutely uses it. So I get the honor now to bring in none other than Jenny Stoner. And I'll tell you what I love about Jenny. First off, she did about almost 100 loans last year. She's on track. Her goal is 150 this year. And I think whenever you see a Jenny Stoner video, there's going to be big smiles, maybe some big earrings, but ultimately she's going to connect with the crowd. So let's welcome Jenny and let's hear some great scripts.
Hey, thanks, Todd. Thanks for having me. I love this community. I learned so much. So at night at home, when I'm sitting on the couch, is when I'm listening to my Mortgage Coach videos. And I just appreciate everyone being so giving with their ideas, because I learn a lot from the people in here. So thanks for putting this together. It's a big deal for me.
Well, we're excited you're here. We are so excited you're here.
So you asked me about scripts, and I'm also not a script person, but here's what I've learned. A script is just a habit that I get into of how I make sure the client has a great experience. And so when I'm setting up my TCA, I do it from the very first phone call. I call that our hopes and dreams call. And I ask the client questions about them. It helps me learn about who they are. And then as I explain what they can expect in the process from my team, I set up the TCA this way. I say, my team's going to gather some documents for you, and they're going to send you a link to my calendar to book a call with me. When I'm putting together options, I never just want to send you a fee sheet, because I equate mortgage numbers to you know when you go to the doctor and they do blood work and then they email you your lab results, but you're really not sure what you're looking at? And usually that connects with the client on some level, and they're usually like, yep. Well, that's what mortgage numbers are like for people. And so I'm never just going to send you a fee sheet and expect you to figure it out. My commitment to you is that I'm going to meet with you, and I do my TCAs. I do one for every client, but I meet with them on Zoom. So I'm in Charlotte, which is a pretty large market. Not everybody can drive to my office without it taking an hour to get here. So I put together a TCA, and then I meet with them on Zoom. I share my screen with them, and I have a face-to-face meeting with them for every TCA. And that has increased my conversion a ton, and it allows me to get to know the client. I love to get to know my people. And so I set that up from the very first call. So when they get a link to my calendar from my assistant, they know what to expect, and they know the value that's going to be presented to them in that call.
So do you ever get pushback on that? Like, oh, I don't want to be on video with you. What does that script sound like and look like?
No, not too much. Occasionally, anybody over like 55 might be like, whoa. And I'm like, if you want to come in and meet with me face to face, I'm totally open to that. But here's what I found. Most people don't want to take the time off work to drive to Weddington, a suburb of Charlotte, to meet with me. So I'm happy to communicate with you over video chat, give you that experience. But if you want to come in, my team would love to see you and meet you as well. So I give them the choice.
And what percentage of your clients take you up on that option?
To meet me face to face?
Yeah.
A very few. I mean, I probably 1 out of 40.
And so that video Zoom conversation that you're having, is that a scripted conversation that you do the same every time, or is it different?
Well, it depends on what the client's needs were, what I learned in their hopes and dreams call. I always start that call by saying, it's so important to me that I serve you well, and I want to make sure I understood what your hopes and dreams were, and then I reiterate back to them the notes that I took on some key things. That does a couple things. It shows them that I was listening, and it just develops some rapport with the client. So I'll say, what you told me is you're looking in the $400,000 range. You don't want your payment to be over $2,000 a month. You are interested in a 30-year fix, but you're curious if a 15-year is doable. Did I hear that right? Did I listen well? And then have them be able to say, yes, Jenny, you did. And usually awesome. I throw in a, great, I've done a good job so far, haven't I?
I think that's great. So talk for a second about your weekly update calls to realtors, because you're also known for those as well. What does a script for that look like?
Yeah, so every week, one of the things we commit to them, and we do this in the Hopes and Dreams call too, we tell them what they can expect from us after they go to contract. So once they go to contract, we do updates to the client, the buyer's agent, and the listing agent, and I do all those via video. So I shoot a quick video with my phone. Hey, it's Jenny. Just wanted to give you a quick loan update. We got your appraisal back. The value came in awesome. Your approval looks super. The next step is my closing person is going to be sending you an initial closing disclosure to sign, yada, 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 whatever it is for that particular client. And again, it's a connection for them that I may not otherwise be able to have.
And are you following up to make sure that they're looking at those, or is it done through just normal text message, or how you send in the video?
Yeah, I just text it to them. And I tell them when they go to contract, I tell them that's what to expect from me. And I ask them, can I text that to your mobile phone? And I very rarely get a no. Because I like to communicate with my clients the way my friends communicate with me. And right now I'm in my early 40s and we all text. And that's what I pay the most attention to. So that's how I like to communicate to my customers, because I feel like there's a connection there where I'm communicating with them the way their friends are.
I love that. I love that. I see you here, Dave. Would you have a question?
No, I just think it's pure gold. I think what makes Jenny special is how she personally connects with people. And one of the interviews I did with you that really stands out is the whole referral magnet series, where you were creating, videos in Facebook that were like referral magnets around stories. So no, keep it rocking, and give some closing thoughts, and I'll bring up our next guest in just a minute.
So Jenny, you do a lot of other videos. I mean, any other video script that you've used recently or that you use on a weekly basis, that would be great to share with the crew.
Yeah, so I use video in tons of different ways on different platforms. My most successful ones I feel like are just on Facebook, where I tell stories about how we've helped clients. And my goal is that people who watch those can get a sense of who I am and how much my team really cares. And then it also stays in front of those people, just reminding them what I do without saying, do you need a mortgage? Do you need a mortgage? And then we also email those out once a month to our client base, just so they can be reminded, hey, this is a situation that we helped a client. So for example, a lot of times I'll do one like, are your kids going to college and you're thinking about apartments right now? Have you ever thought about buying a home with them on it with a primary residence interest rate? Call me if you're interested in that and don't want to waste money on rent. Those kind of videos, when I can connect a story with a client, it just seems to resonate with them.
I love that. I think that's just so important because we see that all the time, right? You're all on everyone else's Facebook page and they just talk about a loan program or loan limits changing, and Jenny's telling the story and she's connecting.
Nobody cares about loan programs. They care about how you can help their friends.
Yeah, I love it. I love
The
it.
The only other thing I was going to share with you is I've had a ton of success with what I call my VIP calls. And basically that is, I went through my closed borrower list and picked out those people who refer us often, who've done multiple loans with us, who were connectors in our community, and we've coined them VIPs. And then I set up a call with them, and what I do is, one, we give them kudos for being a VIP, but I say part of my level of service for my VIPs is to be way more than a mortgage advisor to you. I want to help use my connections to help you build worth and help you make good financial decisions. And then I go through, there are 5 or 6 key people I feel like everybody needs in their life to make good financial choices and build wealth. Is it okay with you if I go through who I think those people are? And let's make sure you have all of these people in place. If you do have them, awesome. If not, I would love to refer you to somebody that I trust. And so I take them through real estate agent. I take the opportunity to kind of give praises to their agent, a great lender, and I just remind them I have them covered there, that my job did not end at the closing table, a financial planner, a CPA, an insurance person, and then an attorney that can draw up a will or trust for them. And you'd be surprised how many people don't have a will and a trust. And so we go through those, and that does a couple things. One, it allows me to serve my clients on a different level. And then 2, if they do have a financial planner or CPA they love, I say, awesome, I really need some more great people that I can refer my VIPs to. Would you mind connecting me over email with that financial planner that you love? Because I need some more people that I can refer my VIPs to. And it's just a great warm handover. I've gotten some great financial planner relationships out of that.
Love that, Jenny. You are killing it. So appreciate you, and looking forward to my next interview with you, Jenny. Thank you. All right, guys, we got Keith Collins coming to you live out of Northern California. Keith is fairly new in the mortgage coach community, averages 150 loans, does about 50 million, and he is a regional leader in a fast-growing region that I think did a little over 300 million this year. So Keith, thanks for making time, brother.
Hey guys, yeah, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, you are doing some cool things. I love how you've just come out of nowhere in mortgage coach land. You're north of a couple hundred TCAs, and I know you've got some scripting on how you win with online buyers and how you really identify the rate shopper. So walk us through your scripting and your strategy to win with rate shoppers.
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2018, I think I said this on a call, and I've heard this a lot, is I heard a lot of people say, like, I think we're getting shopped more than we ever have before. And I wonder if we're actually getting shopped in the way that we think that we are. And I think it's really because the consumer is looking for more value at point of sale. And I spoke about this, I think, in the last call that I was on, but like the grocery industry, and I know I'm drawing a weird parallel here, but the grocery industry has done an amazing job with the organic food label, right? The GMO sticker. You walk into a grocery store and literally at point of sale, bag of carrots is more expensive, but it's got that darn sticker on there. And you understand like why you're potentially paying more for these carrots. And in the mortgage industry, unfortunately, our value can't always be seen at point of sale. But our industry has done a really poor job of training the consumer that like the true value is our interest rate. Now, interest rates are extremely important. We all get that. But like, what's a low rate if you're not going to close a home loan? And so You know, kind of to transition, like in terms of shopping is, and this is going to echo a little bit of what Josh said on the previous SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA call is, I don't know if we're necessarily being shopped in the way that we think that we are. And I don't know if it's the way that my agents are referring me, but I'm not getting an initial conversation with a client like, I'm shopping lenders or what is your rate? I'm getting where are rates at? And where are rates at is a much different conversation that you need to have with the client. And I think a lot of times we're just lumping that together and then we're just starting to spew information as opposed to leaning in that question, because where are rates at is a curiosity question. The client is asking something like, are you cool? Do you like, am I going to like you? Are you going to take care of us? Now, are you fair and competitive, but are you also professional? And do you have a process? And so when someone's asking that question, I'm listening for it and I'm leaning in and I'm addressing the interest rate up front, but I'm going over my process. And what I've heard on this call is, everybody's got some sort of a process. Now, they may have not said our process is, or they articulated that they have a process, but it's clear that they've said these things multiple times. And so we need to be able to indicate to our clients that we have a process. And for one reason or another, when we do, it just seems to kind of follow that process. So when a client says to me, like, where are rates at? I'm going to lean right in and say something like, hey, that's a great question. Interest rates are extremely important. Interest rates are still very low. And, but the interest rate that we get is really going to vary based on the program that you choose. And interest rates on certain programs can be in the low fours to high fours. I think we have a clear process that we go through, and I think it might answer some of the questions that you have. And it starts really with the simple goals and dreams conversation. And we're starting it right now. Where do you guys want to be? What kind of home are you looking for? How long do you guys plan on being in that home? And how much have you guys set aside for like initial investment? And what do you want that mortgage payment to be? Obviously you want the lowest possible payment, but what are you guys budgeting on a monthly basis? We'll go through all that information, and then I'll text or email you a link to our Easy app. It's an online application without the hassle. It'll take you about 10 or 15 minutes. You can upload documents securely, take pictures of it. I'll get a notification when it's complete, and then I go to work. And I'll come back in about 24 hours. We'll set up another call to either, or a time for us to meet in person or do a video chat or have a conference call. And I'm going to go over the 4 things that I typically find clients always ask about. Those things are, number 1, what's the max price that I'm approved for? And based on what I said I wanted to spend, like, what's that going to get me? 2, based on all the available programs, what program do you think is best for me and why? What's my payment going to look like? That's the interest rate conversation. So we're going to proactively address interest rates there. And what's my no surprise number? And I like to say it that way because I want them to know that this is like not a scary number. This is the number we're planning on, and we're planning on having it come in lower. So what's that no surprise number? Are you guys ready right now to have that conversation? And typically it just rolls right into that conversation. Make sense?
Makes total sense. Loving it.
So when I am getting shopped is it's after the presentation that I give the client, I'm finding. And I think it's because it's like, hey, you buy a red car and then all of a sudden you see red cars everywhere. They're now in like mortgage world, right? We've got them pre-approved. We've given them presentation. They're now shopping for homes and they're listening to conversations at the water cooler that maybe they never listened to before. And they had a mortgage inquiry and they're now getting targeted ads from internet lenders because they pulled their credit for a mortgage. And that's, I think, when interest rates are coming up a little bit more in a rate shopping situation, at least with me, than in that initial conversation. So what I do is I use a total cost analysis in our presentation, and I proactively lean in on interest rates. Even if we're dealing like with an FHA buyer that's minimum down and paying 2 points. Sense for them. Like, we know that if lender that rate, and they're just going to think Keith has higher rates. So with the total cost analysis, and I sent that to you earlier, Dave, is we use the whole strategy 1, strategy 2, strategy 3, right? Strategy 1 is no points. Strategy 2 is typically close to 1 point. Strategy 3 is maybe 2 points or something similar. And then we're going into like, what's the plan? In the initial conversation, you said they're going to be in the home for X. I think this is probably the best strategy for you. And then they understand what they're doing moving forward. Sorry.
It's all good. So I want to make sure everybody connected a dot there, because now more than ever, people are rate shopping, and you have to assume they are rate shopping. The question is, are they going to grind you at the point of sale? Are they going to wait until you've put a home in escrow and you've killed it and you spent all kinds of money and time, and now they're going to grind you? So Keith knows that. And so he's providing options. He knows that online lenders and big banks are going to always provide low rate with big payments. So he's being proactive in his experience. Anyways, keep going, brother.
Yeah, man. And so we just, like I said, we lean in on that conversation. And when they bring that up, I'm listening again. Like, did they say like your rates seem high? Or did they say, I got a quote? Because that's totally different. If rates seem high, you know, where did you see that? And I want to lead them to a point where I can say something like, did you read the fine print? Because often we're seeing these quotes and they've got like, you know, I got one across the desk that was from Quicken. And there was 2 points. And so it was an interest rate that was much lower than what we were offering the customer, but on the fine print on the back, it had 2 points on there. And so a lot of times they're just getting this random quote because they've got mortgage in their Gmail account and they're getting force fed these rate quotes and they're just asking questions. So we need to find out where is it coming from. And then kind of put in, I hate to say this, but like little seeds of doubt. Like, did you read the fine print? Well, no, Keith. Okay. Well, what rate was it? Well, it was that rate. Okay. And then I'll redirect back to the initial conversation. So do you remember our kind of strategy conversation? We had talked about strategy 1 being probably the best thing for you. This seems more like a strategy 3 rate. Are you guys shifting to maybe wanting to pay points and buy the rate down now? And usually it kind of answers the question right there.
Love it. Well, a lot of what you do and a lot of what Jeremy and the folks that are delivering this hopes and dream conversation and you're using a total cost analysis, you're going to avoid a lot of rate shopping that typical loan officers that aren't, you know, delivering an advice-based experience with a video, hopes and dreams. I mean, you're just not going to get shopped as much. You're not going to get in the knife fight where you got to get the knife out and win. So I hope a takeaway for everybody in this scripting is that if you do it right and you're consistent, so like Jeremy's done 3,000 total cost analysis, do you think he's really good with his borrower conversation after having the same conversation 3,000 times? Absolutely. So, and Keith, you're trending and you're killing it. One last script before you go, and you've only got about 2 minutes, but what are you saying so that when your realtors give you a referral, you know, what does that script sound like? Because how you get referred matters. I don't want to say as much as how you show up, but it's super important. So what is some scripting that you have to get your realtors to refer you the right way?
So like, what am I saying to the realtors, or what are the realtors saying about me? Because that's
however you want to, whatever's most valuable to the audience in the way that you do it.
So I think it's important to frame up with the realtor as to like why they need to refer a lender. And NAR, I don't know if you've seen this, National Association of Realtors, they do some awesome end of year reports where they'll survey like 2,000, 3,000 buyers and sellers, and they come up with all this information. So one of the things that NAR found was that one of the top 3 things that buyers want from their agent is to arrange the financing. Right? That's a big deal. And I think the loan officer plays a critical role in the sales process, and we're probably the #1 partner that they have to help them sell. Like when they find a person, they hand it to the lender, kind of for us to like close it, approve it, and bring it back to them. And if they're not confident in the way that they're referring us, they're not putting us in a position so that when the client comes into that conversation with us, they're like, wow, I'm talking with Keith. Keith's awesome. He's the #1 lender in the Tri-County area, and Yelp and Google, whatever it is. You got to figure out what you do really well and then train your agents to sell you in that way. But the reason is it puts us in a position so that we can return and just immediately edify them. And, oh, how did you find so-and-so? They're an amazing realtor. I've worked with them for years. They're the #1 agent on Yelp. Whatever it is, you need to have a conversation with the agent about the way that they're handing you off to them. And I can get you guys this email. I instruct all my agents to do a Keith meet so-and-so, so-and-so meet Keith. There's a link to a video that we did about our team. It briefly explains why they work with me. And then it says, Keith makes 3 simple commitments to our clients. And whatever those commitments are for you, key in on that. But that's the way I think my agents are, well, that's the way they are referring over to me. And then it's putting me in a situation where like they're ready for a pretty cool conversation with Keith Collins right up front. It's not like, hey, here's one of 3 lenders, just call one of them. I'm sure they'll take care of you.
So a couple of things, folks. And Jeremy has a similar, I don't know if it's the same letter, but I've heard him share his scripting. He's got a letter in an email that he wants his realtors to use. And this is how you refer me. This is the best way to refer me so I can serve you. So just take away for everybody, critical that you're scripting on how you train your agents. Keith, you'll give us that email that we can share with the community?
Absolutely.
And I'll see if I can twist Jeremy's arm and get his email that he uses, and everybody on this call, you need to make that a best practice. So I'll hand it off to you, Todd, to wrap it up and bring in our next guest.
You know, I love it that we're going to build out this value pack, as you called it, Dave, for all of the members of our community, everyone who's here. So thanks in advance to all of you for sharing. You know, we're talking a lot about realtors here, and this call wouldn't be complete if we didn't bring in the #1 friend, realtor friend of the mortgage coach community, Nicole Solari. Nicole is a $150 million producer out of Northern California. She ironically works with the great Jeremy Forcier, and Nicole's graced us with a lot of her information on open house and how she's really crushed it in business. So welcome, Nicole. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thanks. How are you?
Doing wonderful. So I know you're going to share with us some of your open house scripts, so I will just hand it off to you and let you start running.
All right. So I can't call myself new anymore. I think on most mortgage coach videos, I call myself new, but I'm 5 years in, and I built my business, grew my business from starting doing open houses. And so I had great lender partners from the beginning, Jeremy, of course, being one of them, who sat with me painstakingly so as a newbie in those open houses, and we converted a ton of clients together. Now I have a ton of repeat business. I'm really lucky to now have relationships and get business, and I hope that everyone out there eventually gets to that point where you get to work with past clients and past client referrals. But to get to that point, you know, being new in the industry and also being new in my market, I had to get out there and meet folks. And so I started open houses, was doing, you know, 10 to 15 open houses a week in the first year, ad nauseum, day after day, wacky Wednesdays, fun Fridays, your typical, you know, 11 to 4 open house Saturday, Sunday. Conversions skyrocketed. I was buying some Zillow leads at the time. I had great conversions for internet leads, but the conversion in our open houses, I was in the summer of 2016 having 100% conversion for a couple of months in a row. So anyone that came through my open house that was ready, willing, and able to purchase was purchasing with me, which is just crazy to hear those kind of statistics. And I think it all boiled down to the scripting and the approach that I took with the open houses.
So walk through that. When someone came in, what was your script to collect their information and then get them over to Jeremy for their pre-approval?
So I started going paperless, I believe in 2016. So it was very much a soft touch approach. So it was very conversational. It was very friendly. It was not a sales pitch whatsoever. People would walk in and I would use a number of different scripts based on immediately trying to identify their personality type and what their motivation for coming in was. So it would be one of a few handfuls of things. One being, hey guys, would you mind signing in? You know, the seller has asked me to collect the names of people for safety purposes. I did that a lot, especially with women that would come in with kids. You know, being a female myself and with safety being top of mind, I think a lot of people were willing to give real information up front when they hear the safety factor. The other thing that I did a lot of giveaways. So I would partner with a lender who would either auction a bottle of wine or a gift card, night out on the town, some movie tickets, and we would ask them to sign in for their opportunity to win. The secret behind that is that everybody was a winner. So anyone that you connected with, anyone that you wanted to follow back up with, they automatically became a winner. So we would give away 5 or 6 bottles of wine. Of course, you know, it costs a little bit of money, but you're automatically able to drop that bottle of wine off at that person's home. So, hey, welcome to the open house. If you guys want to sign in, my lender has graciously donated this awesome bottle of Cabernet. Sign in and I'll call you if you win. So I'm not trying to sell them anything. I'm not trying to collect their information. I'm just raffling something off.
Well, I love it. And I love that they all win. And so then how were you then doing the lender conversation and getting them to pre-qualify with the lender of your choice?
So I'd always ask everyone, hey, have you started the process of your pre-approval or your pre-qualification? And, you know, I'd say 50% of the people would say no, 50% would say yes. I would ask them, who are they pre-qualified with? So who's your go-to lender? They would say, you know, my bank or my buddy or this. And I say, well, you know, have they walked you through the process? And it was just kind of peeling back the onion of questions that I knew that they would answer no to, questions that I knew that my lenders would do for them. So things like, have they showed you a total cost analysis? Have they showed you what your mortgage is going to be? Did they explain your closing costs to you? Did they explain the difference between your rate and your APR? Did they explain all these things to you? And I would say 9.5 times out of 10, the answer is no. So it gets them starting to think, oh my gosh, my lender is not telling me all these things. You know, why are they not telling me these things? So then I can go right into, well, I work with an amazing lender. They work a lot with, insert the type of buyer they are, right? A lot with VA, a lot with first-time home buyers. Whatever they are, tell them that's what they specialize in. They work a lot specializing with XYZ. Would it be okay if I connected the two of you? And then, you know, after you've led them through the process of kind of devaluing their lender situation, they're automatically going to be prone to say, yeah, let me hear what they have to say. And it's especially valuable if you can get your lender to sit at that open house with you, especially if it's, you know, going to be a busy one. You know, sometimes we would have 5 or 6 couples through at the same time, and you can kind of tag team, and then you can hand off to the potential buyers right there and get them pre-approved, pre-qualified, sitting down, taking a loan application at the kitchen table.
So guys, I pulled up a couple of the interviews I've done with Nicole in the past. I want to show everybody that if you go to our YouTube page or channel, you can type in Nicole's name, Jeremy's name, anybody on this call, and you can pull it up. But notice that I've interviewed her multiple times. This particular one has had 5,000 views. I think this is the most recent one. But if you partner with realtors to do open houses and you want to optimize the number of leads you get at those open houses and optimize the conversion of those leads you get at the open houses, study Nicole's process. I mean, it's brilliant. I've interviewed her several different times in different ways. And if this is part of your value prop, check it out. So I'm getting ready to bring in the closer, Mr. Josh Medel. Josh, before I formally introduce you and do your scripting, any questions you have for Nicole or anything you want to say after hearing her process?
No, the only comment I would add is anybody who hasn't watched Nicole's playlist, they're awesome. Jeremy's been on a few of those, and there's some great ideas. The reason you want to listen to those as a loan officer is because they're chock full of great ideas that you can bring to your realtor partners. I've forwarded most of those videos you're scrolling through to my realtor partners, and it's a great way to solidify and get a foot in the door with realtors. So check out our playlist.
Yeah, and this particular one was interviewed by Bill Hart, and we have a series of interviews where Bill has interviewed top realtors, and the whole interview was designed around the concept of it's a gift for you as the mortgage coach community to forward to agents. So it's a realtor interview with a top agent. That's a goal, a gift of knowledge for you to give. So, and there's a playlist for that. The Bill Hart realtor interviews, pure gold in there.
Thanks for pointing that out, that I stole that idea and it wasn't my own. Appreciate that.
No problem. Hey, Nicole, any last thoughts before we bring in Josh?
No. If anyone has any questions, I'm an open book, so feel free to reach out.
Yep, reach out to her, and then we will have an ongoing chat in our Facebook group. If you have questions, you can post it or you can put it in comments. And I've asked all the leaders and guests of SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA to, pay close attention to the group for the next couple days. Most of them are already very active in this group. So let's bring in Mr. Josh Medel. I've interviewed Josh countless times. you know, you almost need no introduction, Josh, but if you could just tell everybody a little bit about your team's production, and then let's get into some scripting.
Yeah, based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. We do loans in all 50 states. We served 998 clients last year for about 330 million. We're on track. We're up about 20% so far this year. So hope to serve 1,250 clients and knocking on the door at 400 million in production. Surrounded by a great team of loan officers here, and it's definitely a team effort.
Yeah, you guys do a great job. You've created thousands of total cost analysis. Part of what makes Josh's group awesome is that they are serious at delivering the highest end experience they can. You know, I've actually heard you use the analogy of a Four Seasons-esque experience. So being everything that Amazon's not, you know, like what can Amazon Mortgage not do? Think of the Josh Medel team. Let's talk about the borrower experience, and then let's make sure we also talk about first-time home buyers, any nuances that you do on that. But why don't you share some of your scripting that you have in mind around borrower?
Yeah, well, just to your point about the Four Seasons experience, you know, we want to be as different, and Keith alluded to this too, right as I was tuning in, but we want to be as different as humanly possible to every other lender. So I know the call's around scripting, but I really do think it starts before that. It starts with the way your realtors introduce you. It starts with how quickly you respond to that initial phone call or text message and can get that client on the phone and get them engaged. And then it's the depth in which you go with that first conversation, right? They alluded to a hopes and dreams call. I'm really in that first call trying to figure out where's the hair on this deal. Where is it possible that this person is not going to fit in the round peg or the square peg that Quicken or Amazon to be is going to do? And where can I then use any of my knowledge to immediately start educating? So I think the questions you had for me is, how do I position myself with borrowers? Well, first I want to be personable and I want to have fun. I mentioned that in almost every total cost analysis now, that this is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to bring an enjoyable mortgage experience, and we're going to tailor everything in that total cost analysis, everything in our conversation around where could you possibly get snagged? How can I offer or share my advice and expertise with you to make sure that you have a flawless experience? And then we just go about making sure that we've really exercised on the perfect loan process, which starts right up front with a really good initial phone call.
So how is it different with a first-time home buyer, or is it different with a first-time home buyer?
I just make sure to ask the question. So we have a scripted set of questions that are built right into our CRM system. We ask the same questions every time. Everybody on my team does. And one of those questions are, have you purchased a home before? Is this your first time buying a home? And as somebody says, no, I've never bought a home before, I say, great. I said, I love working with first-time home buyers. This is going to be a ton of fun. And you can feel just with delivering that little piece, they're like, oh, cool, this is going to be fun. It's not something I have to be stressed out about. And then I'll just ask them, I'll say, hey, so Dave, do you have some apprehension about buying your first home? Tell me about it. And then usually it's like, oh man, the only reason I'm doing it is because my wife's making me buy this home. And you get them to kind of open up and let that all out. And they say, Dave, we're going to have a ton of fun. I've been in the mortgage business for 18 years. I've personally helped over 3,500 families buy and move into their new home. And I can promise you this is going to go great. We're going to have a ton of fun, man. So I just make sure I ask the question and then I address it, and then boom, we're off at that point. Like, we're bros at that point.
Well, I don't think I've heard you say it like the ton of fun script. And I like that. I recently interviewed a millennial loan officer who was talking about how I'm making mortgages cool again. And I like that. And then I like the Josh Medel, I'm making mortgages fun again. So that's I think a big takeaway for everybody. So how do you proactively address rate? Because I know you're very strategic. You're always playing chess. What does that sound like, and what is the strategy behind that?
Well, in that initial phone call, I am going to ask questions like, do you have an idea of what kind of purchase price you're going to be looking for? Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they say, man, I got no idea. I want a payment at $2,000 a month. But most of the time they have an idea, 400, 500,000. Great. What are you envisioning in terms of your down payment? Okay, so you've got less than 20% down. We're definitely going to be talking about some different mortgage insurance strategies. Do you know what mortgage insurance is? Yes or no? okay, oftentimes we can deliver a loan that doesn't have mortgage insurance. It might be at a slightly higher rate, but it'd have a lower total cost because you're going to avoid those costly mortgage insurance premiums. When we build you your total cost analysis, we'll make sure and show you those different strategies. But know that what I'm going to be advising for you is the loan that has the lowest total cost, not always the lowest interest rate. And that'll make a lot more sense once you review the total cost analysis.
Love that. And folks, one of my first mortgage strategy interviews was with Josh, and I think it was a buyer where you were competing with 7, like they had talked to 7 different lenders.
Yep.
And you won the deal. And a couple things struck me is one, just your attitude about it. You were just like, how fun is this? Whereas many loan officers would just be like, they'd be pissed. They'd be like, how dare this first-time home buyer talk to 7 different lenders? Like they wouldn't even show up with the attitude that you did. But guys, listen to that interview, and he talks about how he uses different MI options to win. I want to get into the scripting that you put on the video, but I also want to make sure everybody knows how to, you said something early on, I'm looking for the hair. And the way I interpret that is you're looking for the opportunity to be the advisor.
That's right.
You're looking for the opportunity to go from checkers to chess, so that it's not just a price and speed game, but it's a chess game. So is there any scripting on that? And then if you could share what you put in the total cost analysis video so we know what that full experience looks like.
Yeah. The scripting would be the initial questions that I'm asking, because I'm going through, how long have you been at your current employer? Are you paid on a W-2? Tell me about your student loan status. We work with a lot of relocation folks all across the country. So we'll talk about, tell me about your employment contract. And we'll go through all of the things that snags people up. And you could make a list in your own demographic or your own niche that you go after, right? If they're going after condos, then there's hair on it. If you're going USDA, then there's hair on it. If you've got credit score issues, there's hair on it. So I'm just trying to find all the different places where we might be able to educate and we might be able to bring value. And then just depending what's brought up, we'll start talking about that immediately in the conversation. And then that always links to the total cost analysis. So whether it's something I picked up on that they said in the phone call, like I talked to a guy this morning, he wants to retire at 2025. And so he wants me to build him some strategies around trading his current house for a new house, but being debt free by 2025. So immediately I said, okay, great. Well, there's at least 4 different ideas I have, and all of them will enable you to be debt free on that mortgage by 2025. What I'd like you to do is complete our client questionnaire, and then I will build you a total cost analysis. It's the coolest tool ever. It's going to show you 3 or 4 different options that I put together and the total cost of each of those loans over a 7-year time horizon. It's going to make your decision-making process ridiculously simple to pick the right loan.
Boom. I hope everybody heard that. Ridiculously simple to pick the right loan. I'm going to make mortgages fun.
Yep.
And he actually shows up with a fun attitude, having fun, asking great questions, hopes and dreams. He's looking for that one big strategic thing that person wants. And then they're, doing the total cost analysis to show you how to pay it off in 25 years. In the first interview with Shannon, I know that the total cost analysis example she's going to bring, it was a client that wanted to make money with real estate. So it was all about being the money guy, making money with real estate. And so whatever that one thing is, that's not rates and fees and product based, it's hope and dream based, you're driving the conversation around that. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll just say, I guess you've got to get past that initial, if the call you are getting, Keith said, hey, I'm not getting, what are your rates? But if that's what you're getting, you just have to figure out a script to get around that. I'll tell you a great one that a loan officer in my office said the other day. Somebody called, they were super high D dominant personality. I just need to know your rates. And he said, well, what rate are you looking for? And the guy goes, I'm looking for like 4.25. And the guy goes, cool, yeah, no problem. Can I ask you a few questions? The guy said, yeah. And that was it. They were totally diffused on the rate conversation. He didn't say, yes, I have a 30-year fixed at 4.25. He just said, well, what are you looking for? 4.25? Well, that seems reasonable. Can I ask you a couple questions? And just moved on with it. So just figure out, get past that initial rate conversation, whatever your script is for that. and then start digging in on where can I really help this person? Where are they going to run into challenges? Where's Quicken going to mess up on this deal? How can I add more value and think of more strategies? And how can I make sure at the end of this conversation, when I lead them to my application or client questionnaire, I repeat to them what they said. So if they told me that they wanted to be debt-free and mortgage-free to retire by 2025, I certainly am going to repeat that back, letting them know that I was listening and I understood where they want to go. And now the path of least resistance is to complete the client questionnaire so we can get in the total cost analysis.
So let's do this. So I want to kind of like, let's just say, wrap this up in the next few minutes. But then we've got some of the best loan officers in America on the call, and I want to give them a chance, like do some like off the grid SCRIPT-PALOOZA chat. Josh, real quick before we do that, what are you putting in the total cost analysis video, just so people know that script for the TCA video?
Yeah, well, it would depend a little bit on what's on the content of the video, but it would go something like this. Hey, Dave, thanks so much for completing our client questionnaire. Man, I'm super stoked to be working with you. Like I said, we're going to make this a lot of fun. I also am really looking forward to working with your realtor, Todd Bookspan, who definitely is the best of the business. Todd's a great guy, does a wonderful job, and between the two of us, we've got you covered. We're going to take great care of you. Now, regards to the loan options that we discussed, I've given you 3 different strategies to take a look at. You'll see those in the top left-hand summary section. And moving from left to right, you're going to see blah, 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 blah. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to build that script out, and then identifying whatever those 3 strategies are. And then at the end of that, I'm just going to have a call to action, which is going to be, hey, Dave, my contact information's in the top right-hand corner. Don't hesitate to call or text me. I'm available over the weekend if you need me. Looking forward to reviewing this with you and getting you and your family into your new home, man.
Love that. So awesome job, brother. You always bring the heat. I'm looking forward to sharing your email in our value pack. So a couple things for everybody watching this. Hopefully you got tremendous value. Mortgage Coach was showcased as a great way to deliver advice, both the technology and the content. And Win by Noon, our partner with this event, it's all about personal productivity. If you want to be your best, you need to use Win by Noon or a platform like that. If you want to adopt new technology, like there's a lot of people on this that are like, oh, what's this Mortgage Coach thing? Different loan officers mention their CRM. What's this CRM thing? If you don't win by noon and you don't plan right, you're not going to be productive. You're not going to be able to do the things that matter in moving the needle with your business. So Todd, any closing thoughts? And then let's do a little bit of unscripted with the leaders we have for a few more minutes, but I'll let you put the closing thoughts on this.
Let me just throw out a couple of things that the coach in me wants to bring out, right? You heard people talk about the fact that a script isn't something they memorize, right? I think you always have to, you memorize a script, then you customize it for you, and then you internalize it so you can put it out there. And all of these speakers have had building blocks of a great script. So it's not one script from start to finish, right? They've got different blocks that they put together depending on what the client says. You heard a bunch of people talk about having a little bit more fun, right? That's be you, be personal in whatever it is that you're doing. And then you also heard a lot of people say this, right? You have to listen, right? Listen to what your people are saying. And then lastly, you heard people refer to it as, the different ways to get on the baseball field. You heard Josh talk about the hair. I call it rub a little salt in the wound. And even Nicole said she's identifying the questions that she knows that the other lenders haven't addressed, so that she can get people over to her preferred lenders. And so keep that in mind as you're going through. There's so much here to learn. There's a lot of other great calls. Dave's highlighted a bunch of them. If you want to talk about productivity and how Josh's team is doing it, he and I did a great call a few weeks back. It's in the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. It was awesome. I got tremendous feedback on that. And as always, Dave, I'm just so grateful to be here alongside of you. I appreciate the commercial for Win by Noon. I mean, the bottom line is this, right? If you don't have a productivity system, then you're probably not that productive. And if you're going to schedule in all these things that you've learned and how to be more productive going forward, it's just one tool that may work for you. Happy to help if I can in any way.
Love it, guys. So if you got value from today, please like it in the channel you're watching it, whether that's on YouTube or Facebook. Give us a like and share this with your mortgage friends and share this with your team. So everybody's got to go. Feel free to go. Jeremy Forcier, man, are you still tuned in? Are you still here, buddy?
I think he just stood up and went to get a cup of coffee or something.
All right, Jeremy, if you can hear us, come back and unmute. Josh, any color you want to give around any of the guests that you heard? Anything else you want to say before you jump out?
Yeah, I'll say that I was busy prospecting when you guys kicked this off, and so I'll be playing this from the YouTube channel tomorrow. But I didn't get to hear much, but Keith and Nicole, unfortunately.
Good. And by the way, guys, I interviewed Josh. It was my favorite interview of 2018, and it was Prospecting Mastery, where he talked about his process and his team's process for getting in the headspace and for time blocking 2 hours of prospecting a day. So scripts are important, but if you're not getting up to bat and you're not prospecting, one, you don't get good at these scripts because you don't get enough conversations, and two, you don't have enough conversations, you don't win enough. So, you know, we should think of something we do around that. So anybody else on the call who wants to unmute themselves and ask another top producer a question? I'll give you guys a chance. All right, so Keith Collins, are you still here? All right, guys, well, I gave you all an opportunity for some unscripted role playing at the end. Anyone else before we wrap it?
You know, can I ask Josh a quick question? It was my favorite thing that you had said, Josh, last year on the call, is you said that people ask, what's your rate, because they don't know what else to ask. Is that what you're still believing, or what are you feeling around that this year?
Yeah, I mean, the whole Amazon app and the whole, I mean, you know, I find myself doing this. I was in Whole Foods the other day buying tea, and I realized I had $100 worth of tea in my shopping cart. And I went, geez, I wonder how much I could get this tea on Amazon. And I took half this tea out of my shopping cart in Whole Foods and, you know, bought it somewhere else. I know those companies are now one and the same, but I think people are doing that more and more. They're becoming more accustomed to that. And so we just have to have a way to talk through that and to get deeper than that level. Because, you know, like he said, with the organic foods, if I look at two teas and they look the same, I'm certainly willing to pay more for tea 2 if that tea has better quality ingredients in it. But if you don't get that deep in the conversation and the dialogue with the client, then that's your bad as a loan officer. The client's never going to know why they should work with you and why they should be searching for something other than rate. And I think that's just what people are programmed to do. You know, hey, what's the rate? That's a lot easier conversation than, hey, Todd, how do I know my family can trust you? How do I know that when I tell Xander and Aria that they're going to have a pool in their backyard and their new rooms, that you're going to perform? Because my loan has some hair on it. No client is ever going to say that. But that's really behind the scenes part of what they're thinking. You just got to get deep enough to get to that level of connectivity.
Love that. Hey, real quick, someone just put in chat, and Josh, if you want to answer this, how are you overcoming clients who are saying it's a terrible time to buy? And is that happening much? And do you have a script or a conversation around that?
That's the most awesome time ever to buy. I mean, the economy is rocking. If you lose your job, you can find a new one tomorrow. And we now have an opportunity in markets that are slowing where we can do rate buy downs and we can show them the benefits of, look, let's say your house does go down $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000. Well, look at what your interest rate buy down that we got from a seller concession is going to save you over 30 years. So I would go back to, there's a great Warren Buffett quote, right? Be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy. People are starting to get a little fearful. That's a great time to get greedy and say, great, well, if buyers are fearful, maybe sellers are fearful, and how can I use that to my advantage? I'd love to hear anybody else's thoughts on that.
Make note of the buy down. If you do not know how to do a seller buy down strategy, and you don't even know what I'm talking about when I said it, we don't have time to get into it now, but it is how to play chess. You know, why all these loan officers are killing it is they know all the best strategies in today's market. Keith Collins, anything you want to share before we wrap up today's call?
Yeah, two things. I mean, as far as what the market's doing, I mean, knowing your stats as far as what's going on in your local market, pending sales. Like in our market right here, we heard a lot of people at the end of last year kind of talking about things slowing down, and I really think it was more of a seasonal slowdown. And really looking at kind of what the market's doing. And we look at January this year in our market, and pending sales are actually higher this January than they were the previous January. So it's actually firing off faster than it was the previous year. I just think we all have kind of short-term memories. And if we go back, like our market's been based off emotion. It was screaming down, screaming up, screaming back down. And now we're in what really is a normal market. And I don't think a lot of people realize what that is. We were in a seller's market, at least in Northern California, for probably 8 years. And we've moved to what I think is more neutral. The buyers get to do something they've never been able to do before, and that's negotiate a little bit, and that's cool. But buyer and seller need to mutually agree upon what works for both parties. And I think, and one thing I'm saying a lot to prop up my agents is now more than ever, your ability to buy or sell a home is directly related to the skill of your realtor. Because on both sides of the transaction, you have to have good people. You got to have a good buyer's agent representing you, and you've got to have a good seller's agent representing you, making sure that property sells. And then in terms of just, I saw some comments on here, like newer people just commenting like, what should we do? I think we need to be very mindful. So, knowledge and wisdom is something that you have to gain, unfortunately, over time, and that's just going to happen. But your presentation, right now can be improved. And we need to be very mindful of the presentation that we're giving and always comparing that against the presentation that potentially our competitors are giving, because that's what they're going to look at, right? If you talk to a client and potentially lose them, they go somewhere else and start talking to another person, they're not going to have the presentation that you did, and you're immediately elevated in their world. You just want to make sure that the presentation they're getting somewhere else is not better than yours, because you're going to lose them.
Love that closing thought. That means mortgage coach, total cost analysis for everybody out there. So one last question, and then we are going to wrap this up. And if anybody needs to leave, just tune out. You don't need to stay on. But what about we get grinded, we're getting ready to lose this thing, and call it that last chance script. Jeremy, it looks like you're back. What's your last chance script? Because I think you brought that in. What does the last chance script sound like for you?
Well, I don't believe that there's any last chance until that loan is closed with someone else. So that's first and foremost. I'll give you a great example. I have a client right now. Okay, I'm just going to call the client Aaron. All right, who was working with a credit union and us. Had the same type of stuff like, hey, they don't need all these documents. Not true, right? Has complicated documents, all of this other stuff. And all I said was that, hey, you have to do what's best for you and your family. I 100% agree with that. I just don't want to put you in a position to where in 3 years you're going to lose this home. So I'm giving you advice based on as if I were financing the place, I wouldn't recommend a 5-year ARM personally. And this is just my opinion, you guys, okay? You guys can do whatever you want. I wouldn't recommend a 5-year ARM to a first-time home buyer putting 3% down because you just don't know. That's, by the way, maxed out in debt-to-income ratio at 50%. And I explain all that to them and say, I think what you should do is let's run parallel apps, because everything's not always as it seems. And I know that we can take care of this for you in a very efficient manner. So we did that. I'm fully underwritten and approved. Okay, they've been in contract for 8 days. Other lender is asking for what now, Dave?
Documents.
Yep, all the stuff that we got, right, up front. So last chance script is, of course, you have to do what's best for your family. And I really do care about the outcome. And it's okay to say that, you guys. Like it's really as simple as that. And I'm also not afraid to do the work and not get paid for it. Meaning that this person could choose to move forward with someone else, but let's just make sure that I have you covered, and let's move in tandem. That way you will have options, and you know for sure who you should pick based on what the experience will be like.
Love that, guys. So in our lead conversion playbook, we've got a number of scripts. I think we have 11 different strategies to optimize your conversion. So for those of you that asked questions about that, there's a lot of great scripting. Make sure you study the lead conversion playbook. Let's face it, there's going to be some people, no matter what you say, how you say it, you will not win. And there will be some people, no matter what you say and how you say it, you will win. Where all the magic is and where all the success is that middle group, where because you're well scripted, you said the right things, because you never give up and you show value to everyone, you win. Jeremy, you had something to say, buddy.
I got one other thing. So the other last chance script for me, and this one works really well, especially against big banks because they don't use any type of presentation software, education software, is that, hey, no problem. Will you do me a huge favor? could you send me over the total cost analysis that you got from X? Okay, so you ask them to send you the copy of the total cost analysis, which is Mortgage Coach. That's what I use like 100% of the time. Ask them to send it to you. They're always going to say, send me what? No, or they'll send you a fee sheet, or they'll send you, like, ask for them to send you what you have sent them, what you have gone through, because that's 100% the most accurate. Everyone knows that anyone can put anything on a fee sheet. You can make things look different. Have them, you know, send you and absorb in their head that you, don't forget, you stand out from everyone else. So it's another great way to tie it in, especially if you're using the product.
Love it, man. So guys, thank you for staying with us so long. One more chance. Todd, anything you want to say in closing thoughts? Anybody
You know what?
else?
I'm just so grateful for all of you who showed up to listen. I'm grateful for those of you who showed up to share your scripts. We're still getting questions around getting copies of scripts and emails. Dave and I are going to create a value pack, as he called it, love that name, that we'll be getting out to the Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind community next week. But other than that, I'd hand it back to you guys. Anyone else who's got any final words, love to hear them.
I'll give 15 seconds. Any final words from any of the leaders on the call?
Go crush. Don't be a wimp. You're good just the way you are. You're good enough. You're strong enough. And by gosh, people like you.
Mic drop. Take care, everybody. And again, give us a like if you got value and share this with your mortgage friends. Take care, everybody.
Thanks all. Good seeing you this week.